Okay, kind sir. I asked you if you heard the Fedo podcast, and you told me I was probably download number one. Download number one. You were
I was
all
way. I was like, man, I wonder if it's gonna be before I had to, like before I go to work, during work. But I kept refreshing that page.
what is the goat? What is the dropping? Here's the
Yeah.
thing, like I had been. It wasn't first off. We'll get into it, but it wasn't an easy one to get because he's in Russia and organizing it with him in the DMs. I don't know if he's using Google Translate or whatnot. We actually
Hmm.
had it booked, and then day of he had to pull out, and he was trying to explain, but like I wasn't understanding, and I'm like, so I brought in Dimitri, and Dimitri is the guy who does a lot of translation for Russian athletes. He takes things that remember we had a podcast. He translated mine and your podcast
Hmm.
to Fedoshenko for a reply. And it was him who got the reply on his Russian podcast. He's like the conduit for Russian lifters who, in the Russian public, into powerlifting who don't speak English. So I'm like, you know what? This is difficult. Why don't I just grab Dimitri? Be like, my man, can you help me organize this? And he's like, I
Yeah.
got you. So he got an interpreter booked who was fantastic. He got
Yes.
Fedoshenko and he got himself, all of us on the same podcast, the four of us. And then when I was doing it, I'm like, there's no way, because I've done this in the past, where let's say you're a guy who needs the translation. I
Hmm.
have to ask the interpreter, and people hear this. Hear me ask the interpreter a question. The interpreter asks him, then he replies back in Russian, and then the
Uh-huh.
interpreter comes back with the answer. And when you listen to that, we recorded for about 2 hours. In the podcast I dropped is like 45 minutes because I
Right.
cut all of that out. And I'm like, I'm going to lose every single listener except for you.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
listen to the end, but
Yeah.
I'll lose everybody if I don't do this. It took me every single question. I had to edit out the interpreter back and forth, and I did. I lowered Fedo's voice to like 30% and the interpreter overlaid. So it because I know documentaries and shit that I would watch, that's what they would do. You hear the
Yeah.
interpreter's voice, but you could hear the other guy talking in the background. And it
Uh-huh.
kind of that's what we're used to, the way we digest it. So there it's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It worked. I mean, it's not the same as being able to snowball off of the same language.
Right.
It done. We got it
Yeah.
done, man.
No, it was really cool. And I honestly, when I, when it had dropped, when I seen that it was coming out, I was waiting for it, and like you said, it was supposed to be like a week earlier or something like that. Because I listened to Natalie's podcast, and then you were like, "Yeah, I got Fedo book." I think you said tomorrow on her podcast, and then I'm like, "Wait, but this was like 2 weeks ago that
Yeah.
this dropped." So I'm like, "Where's this one?" So I was like, "I probably figured something happened in the middle of it." But it was well done, like everything that
Thank you,
that you
sir.
did. And I you know what I wish you would have done more was like ask more questions to you, or just in general, whether it's about me or powerlifting. But it definitely was like one sided, to where you were asking all the questions, and thank goodness you had a bunch of them for him, because it was very one sided, to where you were just boom 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 asking the questions, he would answer, and like, okay, and then you would go on to the next one.
Well, so this is what I've found when there's an interpreter involved, you can't go, there's rarely a back and forth. Like they're not coming
Yeah.
back to you, be like, I don't know, what do you think? And I'll be like, I don't know. I would tell you, like, I could give my opinion and we could talk. That's almost gone. It's almost entirely gone,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately. However, at the very
Yeah.
least, like, and you were a main talking point of that had to happen. And I wonder if he knew when he was coming on the podcast, like, this guy's going to be all over me about Wascar. But I have to. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a major talking point. But he was
Uh-huh.
he so first off, we were talking about this way back in the day that for your own
Hmm.
legacy, you need this for people to care for about the 59s. You need the
Hmm.
class needs this. And when I put Fedo and I dropped that podcast, you could see the story likes.
Yeah.
All the international 59s were liking it. So
Yes.
they all know what time it is. And it's
Uh-huh.
you. The story was you eyeballing Fedo and Fedo eyeballing Sheffield, you, and like obviously like it's the showdown, it's the return, it's everything. All the 59s were liking it. From
Nice.
Ivan to I mean all of these.
Yeah.
Um, so it means something to everybody. What was your impression? Do you think he sounds, do you think, okay, first off, what was your initial impressions? And I'll get into my follow-up questions, but what was your initial impression when you heard it?
I mean, I think overall he played his cards right. He gave me my flowers where they were deserved. He held his cards close to his chest overall. Like he didn't say too much, except towards the end. He did say, if I get the opportunity to go to Sheffield, and all that, I do believe I can break the world record. So he did mention that towards the end of the podcast. So like, okay, which I wouldn't expect anything else, right? I'm not going to expect him to say I'm on my way out. I would expect him to say that he's still competitive. But he was respectful. He didn't say anything disrespectful, which I don't think I have either. So I didn't expect him to. So like overall, it was a good listen overall. So
So a couple of things. One thing that I took away that I'm not sure he fully understood. And if we were speaking the same language, I would have been able to maybe articulate better or do follow-up better questions. But
yeah,
I
yeah,
asked him about you going to Sheffield and you get it. You know what this means for the 59s and your potential showdown with Fedo. You
mm-hmm.
know it's the statistics that Pete Spence shares and SBD shares about lifters before Sheffield and after Sheffield, the amount of views they get and the attention they get, it goes kaboom afterwards.
Right,
Everybody watches. Even like mainstream people who are kind of into powerlifting are going to watch Sheffield because it's such a crazy event. And
yeah.
I asked Fedo, like, what do you think the impact would be if you're going to have a showdown with them? And Fedo said, he goes, I don't know. I mean, I don't have more people asking me because of Wascar going to Sheffield or because of Wascar than usual. And I wanted to tell him, like, my friend, you're here literally in King of Lifts, and I spent like 25 minutes talking to you about him. What do you mean? It's happening right now.
Yeah,
Like, what?
yeah.
When I dropped the podcast, it was you and Wascar on the freaking story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, my man, I, I don't know if he fully gets that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think, I mean, he's not the biggest like social media individual. We've known that.
Right.
That's why I've not like taken the approach to try to bring more eyes to the 59s and like tell people no, like, hey, we're an exciting class two to watch. So it doesn't surprise me that I don't think he's fully grasping like what this means for the class because nobody expected it. Nobody expected a 59 to make Sheffield, because when we talked amongst each other, it's like, oh, that world record is so high, and to hit 95% this, which it is a difficult ask, right? Because when you look at the stats, I believe it's only 5 individuals have gone over 620 in the history of the class kilos, 620 kilos. Only 3 have gone over 630. So it's like I get why people think the way they do, but I don't think he fully understands the magnitude of it because of what Sheffield is, and I just think he doesn't have that direct connection with that social media side where he's comprehending what this means for the class in general. Like it's completely different. Like it's no longer going to be the 59s are on at Worlds and there's going to be 200 people watching. Like that's not going to
Right.
be the case anymore. I think
Yeah.
after this, not only coming off of Sheffield and I'm believing in myself that I'm going to put up an incredible performance, then we get to build into Worlds to where hopefully me and him face off, and I'm going to be coming off of this high of Sheffield, and then I do believe I'm probably going to be the underdog going into that clash, and there's going to be a lot of eyeballs, and it's going to be like nothing ever before.
I want to get into what you said about being the underdog. Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think he fully grasps 500,000 people will watch that powerlifting event, which is crazy. And then
Mm-hmm.
if you take that opportunity at Sheffield with the world watching, if you out total what he totals at Asian, or even if you don't, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. If you turn around and then go, Fedo,
Yep.
come and get it. Come and get it. Everyone's watching. We've been two lions circling each other. In Germany, we pounce, huh? I'll meet you
Yep.
halfway. You
Yep.
say that with the world watching, I don't think he understands everyone in powerlifting is gonna be like it's like when boxer you have all these different weight classes and it's that super fight that everyone's like, oh shit, it's gonna happen now. Finally, it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. And if
Yes.
you take the opportunity in the spotlight that you have to be like, my man, we're gonna settle this now. Enough talk.
Mm-hmm.
You're a goat. Hats off. I'm the underdog, but I'm gonna hand you your first L. That's how you.
Yep.
That's how this story goes. It's yeah. I think you're 100% right. I don't think even if he doesn't fully grasp and appreciate what's happening, I think other people do.
Mm-hmm.
I think other people are recognizing because I've never ever been excited for a 59 kilo showdown. Can't
Man,
even
and
tell you other 59 kilo showdowns.
dude, I know, and it's one of the things where I'm extremely excited for him to come back, for us to finally meet on the platform, and I'm hopefully this will enlighten more people to either whether it's cutting down to 59, the people that have voiced that they're moving up to come back down and stay in the class because there's more to show for it. I just hope that it continues to inspire people to watch, come into the class. People are now cutting going a weight class below, so any 66s out there are up for the challenge, come on down. It's like all of this, like why not?
Dude, okay, we'll talk about that. So I was also wanted to ask you. Obviously, Shell's got this discussion going on. Um, but in terms of really, when you look at it on the surface, when you guys finally do clash, you already won. You already,
Mhm.
you've already, because you're a two-time world champ now, Sheffield, and you're going against the GOAT. And no matter what, you've created something. Very rarely can people make people care. How do
Mhm.
you do it? How do you do it? And on that podcast, another thing I don't know if you noticed, he wasn't saying it like a jab, but he was. Well, I put him on the spot a couple times, and he was like, he said, "I'm not boastful like
Yeah.
Wascar talking, like kind of like
Yeah.
that's not me." Although he
Mhm.
clapped back,
Mhm.
he did clap back when he was talking in Russian with Dimitri on Dimitri's podcast. He was like, "He'll beat me when I'm 52." He did say that on the Russian podcast. He was a little more boastful, so it's like, oh,
Yeah.
but which I like. But I
Mhm.
wonder if he appreciates the fact that if you weren't, if you, I know it's the stereotypical like boastful American. It's like my
Mhm.
friend, if Wascar wasn't the way he was, charismatic, boastful, chest out, throwing down challenges, calling you out, then nobody cares. If you are overly respectful and just like it's, you can be respectful. If you're too shy with it,
Mhm.
you need meat on the bone. Chael Sonnen says it best, where he said, all the fight game is, and WWE does the same thing when they write their scripts. It's conflict, and then the match itself is the conflict resolution, and then we move on.
Correct.
There's a
Correct.
movie with conflict, and then conflict resolution in the movie, and then we move on from the movie. But
Mhm.
what people don't get is they can't create the confliction where people are like, I have to choose a side. Oh,
Right.
Oscar's a little too boastful. I kind of like Fedo's quieter. He's the elder statesman, older guy. But then it's like, yeah, but he's like, there's a lot of different variables you can throw into there. But you have to make someone choose. If
Right.
you don't make someone pick a side or make someone care, then it's whatever.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, it really just comes down to like how you go about it. You can, pick to be the heel of the story, um, and be super loud and this and that, or the villain, I should say. I think the way I've gone about it, I haven't disrespected him or his character. I believe in myself that I'm a young individual in the sport going on. My 2025 is literally my 25th calendar year in the sport, and I think with the way that I've progressed and the work that I'm putting in, it's like I believe that I'm capable and I have the tools to beat him. It's just a matter of time. because I'm progressing. I'm not stagnant in my progress. I'm not slowing down. The belief, the drive, the fire is all there, and it all comes down to how much time I've spent in the gym or under a barbell. I'm not stepping on the platform to lose, and that's really what it comes down to. Is we like you said, we can shake hands after the match is done. In the lead up to it, I'm gonna say what I believe in my heart, and I believe that I'm the better man, and I will show that. That's really what it comes down to. Because who am I to say otherwise?
There's no point backing up now. You're the
Hmm.
champ. You
Yeah.
better hold it 10 toes down. You got it. What choice you
Yeah.
got? You,
Exactly.
you're going to be meek about it? Doesn't doesn't make sense. Meet
Hmm.
it head on. And when I post those stories, people reply to the stories inevitably. There are like certain people that are like deep into, they're like powerlifting nerds with it and they love it. And
Right.
some people reply to the stories, especially the past ones when you're taking shots at him, he's taking shots back. And people are like, man, Wascar's talking, but what if he comes back and what if Fedo wins? What if he does this? What if that? What is that going to make Wascar look like? And I said, my friend, when is the last time you ever talked to me about a 59-kilo showdown? When is the last time any of us ever talked about this, about a showdown in the 59s period? And we're having this conversation only because Wasker's doing this. And he
Hmm.
has to. And if he loses, it's sports, bro. He's a two-time
Hmm.
world champ. It is what it is. And
Correct.
you're 15 years younger. You're gonna get him.
Exactly. Exactly.
Spoiler alert. Like, we're gonna keep moving. All right. So it's gonna be fine. But in terms of that's what sport is. What I remember Mighty Mouse. This is very similar to you. But Mighty
Hmm.
Mouse in the UFC, when he was the flyweight champ, he was the bottom weight class. And literally Dana White could not sell the flyweights for the life of him. Couldn't sell it. And Michael Bisping, who's now retired, has a podcast. He works media. He got it. When he was fighting, he would talk shit and rattle people. He fought GSP. I'm Canadian. We love GSP. Like we love, he literally has a statue. And he was talking shit about GSP, and I liked Michael Bisping. Like, you son of a bitch. Like, it made me care. I'm like, oh my God, I hope
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
lose. And now him and GSP are friends, and he's such a nice guy, and he loves GSP. He's like, man, I love GSP. But Michael Bisping was on a bus in during one of these UFC events talking to Mighty Mouse. And Mighty Mouse, who was the flyweight, the world champion in the smallest weight class, but they couldn't get people to care. They were too
Hmm.
small.
Hmm.
Weightlifting and fighting are macho style sports, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in macho sports are like, no, certain people sometimes they get a cut off with how low they're going to go. And Michael Bisping told Mighty Mouse, why don't you talk a little more? Why don't you throw your chest out and say what you're going to do? You're a dominant champion. Why don't you? And Mighty Mouse told Bisping, what if I do and I lose? How dumb will I look? What will
Hmm.
that make me look like? And Michael Bisping was like, then it's never going to work. You're
Hmm.
never going to take that chance. If you don't get bold, it's just not going to work. You can't play it safe. That's not going to sell. And Mighty Mouse never got it, literally to the point where the UFC traded Mighty Mouse away,
Ah.
traded him off to another promotion. And Dana White said, we're going to shut down the flyweight division. Henry Cejudo came around, and
Hmm.
Henry Cejudo, 100%, he's the king of cringe. He's like, hey, fuck it.
Triple
He wore
C.
it like a badge. I'm the king of cringe. I'll
Oh
do,
yeah.
he sold it. And,
Uh-huh.
and now Cejudo's got like podcasts, whatever. He's like a media guy. But
Hmm.
you need it. You can't be afraid to put your chest out and be
Yeah.
bold a little bit. And to
Hmm.
an extent, Fedo never did that before. I can't think of a single freaking showdown he had. I can't think of a single quotable he had. I can't anything, even though he's been doing this for 22 years straight
Yeah.
until
And
now.
I mean that's what it is, right? Because it's you have to, unless you're gonna have big battles happening, right? Like the 83s, 93s, like who's not, you're tuning in to watch those. That's
Right.
like those, all of those guys can go silent for 3 months before the showdown and you're still going to tune in and watch just because you know what's about to go down. But with us, it's like not only are we smaller individuals lifting smaller weights that on the screen, right? Especially when the weights are shown in kilos. So to the average viewer, they're like, 220 kilos. What is, well, 220? That doesn't even say kilos. It just says 220. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? Like, what is all these reds on the bar, etc. Like, you have to be able to show something. And if the case is that I'm talking all of this, and if I do end up losing, like, at least I had the courage to believe in myself. That's the worst case scenario. I believed in myself. Like
Exactly. Shouldn't you believe in yourself as a two-time world
exactly.
champ? But it's like, let's get it popping, let's get it going, let's make something happen.
hmm
Yeah, man. And you first you called your shot for Sheffield,
hmm
and what happened in Malta happened, and it's like,
Right.
well, you, how did the story end? You bounce back, you hit it the next time, and it was even sweeter. It actually made the story better because this
Yeah.
time I was like, will he do it?
Yeah.
Well, will he? Because last time he didn't.
Yeah.
And when you did it unofficially at PA Nats and you had an emotional victory, it meant more because the first time Malta it didn't happen.
hmm
This is what it is. This is when you set these big goals and say it ahead of time. Some
Yeah.
people will keep that shit to themselves. Some people won't. Just take the pressure off. There's not a lot
hmm
of pressure. When you were in Malta, I was the commentator literally saying, here's a storyline. If he hits this, if he doesn't hit this, this is what he's going for.
hmm
You know this. All the viewers know this. And when you set a bar like that, you can win the world title and not achieve your mission. You might have played it safe and be like, let me just keep that part to myself. So I just win and I win and I win. Or I
hmm
double down and make it even harder task and tell everyone ahead of time, if I don't hit this, I failed my mission. It's like, fuck,
hmm
Wascar, you made it harder on yourself. And you're like, well, I guess I did, didn't I? But
Yeah.
it's a storyline now. You
Yeah.
know, it's, you're
That's
not afraid to do that. It's brave.
no, and it's the pressure is, some people crumble under it. Some people shine. I mean, we've seen guys like Russell Orhe, that he shines under the pressure, under the lights. He's built for it. He's made to be under the spotlight. And it just, it brings, I mean, when you put it out there, again, it's who, there's always going to be, there's only two sides to the sport of powerlifting. You win or you lose. You
Mm.
succeed or you come short. And when I failed in Malta, it was such a bittersweet feeling. Like, I can't describe it. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been in the sport for 3 years and I became a world champion. I'm telling myself, like, you should be celebrating this. And my family was there, my son and my wife, and I was excited about it. And then I get back to the hotel, and I'm on YouTube just like this. I'm just like rewatching that, like why, like, how come you didn't hold on to the bar? It was right there. And I just, the entire year, it was just like, what if? Then Sheffield came around. I had to watch it and tell myself, like, you could have been on that platform. And I put the pressure on myself that, hey, don't feel like that again. Don't leave that platform come June. Well, first it was nationals in April. Like, prove it to yourself that you are capable. Went in there and did that. And then come worlds, it's, you couldn't have written it any better. The same exact scenario. I had the same
I know.
exact subtotal, 625 kilos. You couldn't write it any different. And honestly, I think the biggest thing going into that world championships, which I'm very grateful to have done what I've done, is I went into that injured with an IT band issue, so we weren't able to push squats further than we did. Um, so we weren't able to do what we wanted to do, right? So we matched our PR on squat, so we knew we had to push bench to not have to pull as much, and we were successful at that. But we ended up at the same subtotal. It was 625 kilos. Pulled the third deadlift, you succeed, and you live up to what you've been saying for the past year, or the door shuts in your face once again, and you have to go back to the drawing board and live with it for another year. And I was like, man, I tell you, Ryan, when I went back into training after Worlds in Malta, I was like, I'm never gonna feel like that again, because that was such a weird feeling of being so happy and so sad at the same time, because I knew what I had just accomplished, and I should be so grateful, which I am, for being, a first time, winning my first world title at that time. But just knowing how bad I wanted to go to Sheffield and compete on that platform, because such a privilege. You have to earn it. It's not handed to you, especially knowing how little of a shot I might have at a wild card. I was training, I was hopeful, but I knew that the percentage of me getting the wild card spot was slim. So I was just sitting down and realizing that, like, it's probably most likely not gonna happen. So I was like, never feeling like that again. Like, if I'm a world champion, I'm gonna earn my spot, just like every other world champion that typically when they win, they're getting their invite to Sheffield, and I'm very grateful to have succeeded at it the next time around.
So a couple things in there. I want to snowball off of, but one of them, going into Lithuania, I mean, going into Malta, again, you didn't have to run with the storyline about qualifying for Sheffield. You didn't have to throw it out there and speak it into, this is my mission. And if you didn't, it would have took off a lot of pressure from you. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
win. And you were going to win by a sizable margin. You were the favorite to win by a sizable margin. If that was the talking point, it's easy. The pressure is easy. You,
Mm-hmm.
you were a sizable favorite both times, but you decided I need to raise the bar and make it. I don't even know myself. As a matter of fact, when you hit it, to break down and show the emotion you because you're going to push it. And you're like, no, that's the bar. It made people give a shit. And all of a sudden, instead of a runaway victory, it became down to the last deadlift. And everyone's like, you know what this means. You
Mm-hmm.
know what you, is this a repeat? Is this a
Dude.
repeat of last year or is it revenge?
Yeah.
Which one is it? And I kid you not, watching it, I can't remember the last time a 59 kilo class, I was on my feet like, oh my God, oh my God. Like I'm thinking this, like, oh, can he do this? And I remember PA Nats how emotional you were when you hit it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh, if he hits this, it's huge. But if he misses, and if I feel that, why do I feel that? Because you were brave enough to know if I tell the story and say what it means to me, people are going to care when they watch it. And what I notice when people come on the podcast sometimes, they purposely try to downplay because they're afraid. And they tell themselves, if I act like it's not that big of a deal, it won't be a big deal if I don't hit. You pause right there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there you go. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. You heard all that though?
Yeah, I heard it. I heard it.
Okay. Yeah. I notice when people come on the podcast and they're doing that. I notice when people
Mm-hmm.
are trying to not add pressure and be like, well, whatever happens, happens. We'll see whatever numbers I hit, whatever. It's like, I know that's not true. I'm fine with it.
Correct.
But I know you're coming on the podcast purposely not being too bold, saying what you want, saying the numbers you want, saying the outcome you want. I know you're not doing that because you just don't want to put the pressure on yourself. I know that. I'm fine with it. You got to do what you got to do
Mm-hmm.
to get by. But when a guy like you comes around and is like, I can't play it safe like that
Mm-hmm.
because nobody will give a shit.
Yeah.
I need you to care. So I'm going to say numbers that I have never hit and I'm going to have to try to hit them. And I'm not going to pretend it's okay if I miss. I'm going to say it's a big deal. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't hit
Yeah.
that, I feel like I failed. It's like, dude, you don't have to say you failed. You're going to be a world champ. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Not good enough. Let's see. Let me see. Now watch. Now, yeah, I'm going to win by 30 kilos. Who cares? No, 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 no. Now you care. And I care, dude. It worked because I was watching like, holy shit, man. I hope he hits it. So,
Dude, and that was the best part about it, because it was the numbers there. Like, the number doesn't change. If you're in a head-to-head battle, sometimes your opponent will miss, and then you have the opportunity to catch up on bench. You can load up on your third deadlift to try to pull for the win. But 637 and a half is not changing. I had to go into this not only having the pressure of talking about it for the last year, missing once already at it, and then I had to be surgical. I could not miss a single. I when I had my call with Steve, And then when I met with Matt Gary the day before, it's like he knew. Of course, I always understand. I'm an athlete first, and I know my job is to win a gold medal for the United States. But Matt Gary also understood how important it was for me to hit that respective total. But we were all on the same page. Is if I missed a single lift, whether it was strength or a technical miss, that dream was out the window. Hey, you got to wait till next year. So I had that pressure on me because I knew if I missed, there was no convincing them otherwise. Hey, maybe we can take more on bench or more. It wasn't happening. Is if you
Hmm.
miss, if you're not six for six going into deadlifts, you're focused on becoming a world champion, and you got to wait till next year to try again. Um, so that's why it do. And I when I it's for when I hit my bench opener, right? I accidentally clipped the rack because again, I have this, you know, coming off of squats, 3 for 3, good. Feeling I'm good. I'm feeling good. Going into bench, feeling strong, and it's like again, you're there's so much adrenaline of everything that's going on, and man, I come off my chest, I clip the rack hard, Ryan, and I'm extremely, I honestly will say lucky that I didn't get two reds from it because I mean I clipped it. I came off my chest fast. I clipped the right side, and maybe the upright had just enough oil to not let the bar come down and have up and down motion. Only got one red. I had to run to Matt Gary and explain to him I hit the rack. We're good. I had to convince him the undeniable because or else he would have veered from from the plan. Um, but again, I had to be surgical because the number wasn't changing. The 95% wasn't going to change. And I knew what I had to do. I knew exactly what numbers I had to hit. Or even like if I hit certain numbers on squat, I knew I had to make up or bench less on bench to, the rest will be left up for deadlift. And that was the added part to it. I had to be surgical. Not only that, I had everything that I had to do, win, the pressure of living up to the expectation, and then I had to be perfect on the day. I couldn't not be perfect, or else it wouldn't have went the way it went.
In that kind of pressure, people don't understand when you're at the IPF World Championships to go 9 for 9, and this isn't going 9 for 9 cruising. This is your top end.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go 9 for 9 perfect. And
Mm-hmm.
try that. People don't understand. Like, if you watch how many people get called on squat, bench, butt lift, something.
Mm-hmm.
The deadlift wasn't quite clean,
Yeah.
lockout, shoulders, knees, whatever it was. 9 for 9, and you had no room,
Mm-hmm.
zero mistakes. When you're just in a straight up battle, even if it's super tight, okay, I miss a squat, but he might miss a bench, but he might miss a
Mm-hmm.
dead. He's probably not going 9 for 9 either.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't go 9 for 9, the chances are he's not either, though. So it's okay. It all
Mm-hmm.
works out in the wash, usually. In this case, you knew I have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford not to.
Mm-hmm.
This is the type of pressure that's going to help you, by the way, when the big showdown with Fedo actually happens. But yeah, man, that is difficult. And an interesting note you gave as well. You said, I'm probably not getting that wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you think that?
Just because of where the world record was or is, and I think I ended up when I hit 625 in Malta, I was at like 93.6%, I believe. And from June to January, I mean, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of SBD or Pete, then I'm thinking, okay, what happens if he adds 20 kilos, right? He's at 645. That's still 96% or so of the world record. Like, how exciting is that for the viewerships? I know the thing on that's in reach is the deadlift world record at 275. But again, it's like, what does that do for him or the placing if he's going to come in and be at 96%? Unless the rest of the athletes start missing, and just because they're chasing their respective world record, then we're going to have somebody that's going to get a wild card over other athletes that are much closer than I am. And for me to come in and, on my possible best day is to go 96%. So if I were to put myself in their shoes, I'd be like this. Unfortunately, while he is the world champion, it just doesn't make sense as a marketing from the
Mm.
marketing perspective of having people tune in that's to have the most exciting matchups of who's going to place where. It just didn't make sense. So I knew from that standpoint, while I was the world champion and people were talking on social media, like, how can he be the world champion and not be at Sheffield? I appreciated it, but I knew that, the opportunity was slim. So I kept training as such. And, I would check my email every so often, but of course the opportunity never came. And I wasn't surprised just because of, if I were in their position, I mean, I knew that I wouldn't expect somebody that just added from nationals. It was 613 and a half when I hit the Carpino one, going into Malta, 625. So that's like 12 kilos to my total or so. I'm not going to turn around as if I was in SVD shoes and expect Wascar to add 40 kilos to his total in 6 months.
Mm.
It's not realistic, right? So that's why while I was hopeful and anything could have happened, I knew that it was slim for me to get that spot over other athletes that were closer to the world record.
That world record, you think, is this attainable for you?
Yes, 100%. I don't think it's a big number, right? It's a big number. Um, but I don't look at it and think that it's unrealistic. It's because I've always had this mentality of, um, you know, he breathes the same air I breathe, and he bleeds. He's human, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that not everybody is gonna do what I'm capable of or what he's capable of. But I just knew early on that if I truly give this sport my all, and not leave stones unturned, I will do something special. And over time, I've seen what I'm capable of. I'm progressing at an ability that's I I'm progressing in at the rate that's healthy, not too fast. I'm not pushing. I don't push to hit numbers that I'm not expected to hit or I'm capable of hitting on the day. I'm not one to try to hit gym lifts just to post it on the Instagram. I'm a very disciplined individual. Just like Delaney says, you're only judged as athletes, especially as powerlifters, when we compete, less than 2-3 times a year. We're only judged based on our last performance. Unless you do a historic performance like that, when he hit that 669 and a half, every 59 talks about it because it seems like this big number, which it is.
Mm.
But over the years, I I've done the numbers that I've done so far. I don't see myself slowing down, and just my work ethic, my mentality, my reasoning, my why behind it. If I'm not uh, pushing myself and believing that I will be the number 159 in the world, I might as well go home and be with my son, because the time that I'm in here working out, I could be at home spending that time with him, and I'm never gonna get that back. So it's a self belief that, yeah, that number's big. It can be scary, but why not me? Like, it's somebody's done it before, so why not me? And that's why I do believe that I will achieve it someday. It's a matter of when. It's not if. It's not how can he do it. It's just when is Wascar going to hit that world record?
And that world record, obviously. So at this point in time, you could see a pathway. You're adding a good substantial amount of kilos onto your total each and every year. And whether or not it falls, this year, next year, whatever, the first immediate is Sheffield. And what would be your goals with Fedo returning at the Asian Championships? Is the
Mm-hmm.
first goal, well, you tell me, are you looking to compete with him almost head up where you see what he does in December and you try to best it in January? Are you do you have something else in mind in terms of a total that you're chasing that means more to you anyways, period? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously you're going to have a head to head, and in your head to
Yeah.
head, you're not going to go for the world record unless you have to. You'd be crazy to,
Right.
you got to win this.
Hmm.
Winning the showdown is more important. So
Correct.
maybe it's world games, maybe it's whatever, right?
Hmm.
Down the road. But what does this look like to you in terms of your goals for Sheffield and what Fedo does at Asian championships? How much does that impact you? Or are you going to put blinders on a bit? I'll deal with you when I deal with you.
I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna if there's a live stream, I'll depending on the time that it's playing, I'll tune in if it's within like the daytime of my time. If not, I'll watch the replays. Um, but in does it matter what he does? Yes and no. And I'll explain both here. I say yes because it gives me, my coach, and my team an idea of where he's at, right? He's 42. We don't, outside of the good lift, and he said on the podcast that he's done a few competitions in Russia, but I believe on his history, the last competition recorded on there is from 2021, if I'm remembering that correctly.
I'll pull it
Uh,
up right now, real quick for you. So
okay,
it says he did the Russian nationals this year,
okay.
fifth month. What is that? Friggin' May? He
May,
did,
okay,
but he did 610. He was missing some lifts, didn't have a great showing. However,
right.
in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
he did the Russian Cup Classic. He did
Okay,
645,
okay.
which is obviously that is good. That's your
Mm-hmm.
ballpark, obviously.
Yeah,
That's amazing showdown between him and you. I don't know where his conditioning is in terms of, I mean, we're gonna find out in a week, so we don't have to wait
right,
long.
right,
But if it's 610, he's in trouble. If it's
correct.
645, we got ourselves a good old fashioned Donnybrook, don't we?
Yeah,
And
exactly,
then
exactly.
and then in 2023, before that at the Russian Nationals, so that was in October 2023. In March of 2023, he did 655.
Okay.
Now, and then in 2022, he did 672 and a half. We're going back further and further. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
2022 now,
Mm-hmm.
672 and a half. So yes, his total appears to, it's going down each and every time, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But was he dealing with injuries? What's the backstory? It'll get sorted relatively soon, but there's some question marks on my man. He's
Exactly, and that's
42.
and mm-hmm. And that's exactly what the question that I would want answered, or that I believe is going to be answered here in a week, is where is he at? Like, how, if he totals, let's say he totals 620, or whatever, is it because he's injured? Does he total 640, 650, or in the lifts are RP10, or are they moving with more room, for more kilos on the bar, right? what
Hmm.
what what does that all look like? So that's what I think my takeaway will be from that competition here in a week. And then the no, why it doesn't matter, I believe, is because of what I'll be chasing. Like, I'm chasing that world record total that he has set. And I do think, as of right now, unless he does otherwise, I do believe his best days are behind him. And that's why I really want to face him as soon as possible, because I don't want it to be a Jake Paul, Mike Tyson situation. Like, I
People
know.
like, yeah, like that was hard to watch. You're Jake Paul. You're Jake Paul.
Yeah. Right. So I want to be able to know that, if his best days are behind, but he's still putting up a fight, like, I don't want a handout. I want the number one spot, and I want it because I earned it. I took it from him. I don't want him to pass on the torch because, hey, I'm too old, and I'm going to step away. I'm taking that from him, and that's how I want it to be. I want that feeling of, you were right. You were right for believing in yourself, and the people around me, or the people that believe in me, didn't believe in me for no reason, right? So I look forward to hopefully facing him in 25 here at the World Championships. I look forward to seeing what he does at the Asian Championships, and I'm glad. I believe he withdrew from no, yeah, he did withdraw because that just happened. But the Equipped World Championships, I'm glad he didn't do that meet, because it just gives him more opportunity to stay healthy, just focus on what's in front of him and what's ahead of him, and what's coming, because it's not going to be a easy meet. It's not going to be like the past anymore, where he can go in hit his openers, and then you have yourself and the other announcers there. Oh, Fedoshenko, he's got this in the bag. He just has to go 3 for 9 and he'll win. Like it's not the case anymore. So I look forward to being that individual that forces him to be perfect. He'll have to be perfect if he's going to beat me. He won't be able to take his foot off the gas. He won't be able to be relaxed. He's not going to be chilling in the warm up room, relaxed and none of that. I'm gonna put the pressure on him, and we're gonna see how he performs under that pressure.
How funny is it that that's true? Like,
Yeah.
even though he's been around forever, you can honestly look at him in the eyes and be like, you've been around for 22 years. I'm sure you've seen a lot. I don't think it's been maybe earlier in your career, maybe when you're in your 20s, now you're 40 something. When's the last time you've been in a dogfight? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
about to be. When
Mm-hmm.
you see me and I see you, and we're both in that warm up room, you know what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, when is the last time you felt that? Be honest.
Yeah.
What year was it? Was it
Yeah.
2005? Was it a
Uh-huh.
lifetime ago? Because this is a whole nother ball game, my friend. You could act, that's true. He could look at you and be like, you haven't done what I've done. And you could look at him and say, you've been eating off your plate with nobody trying to snatch your plate from you forever. You got
Mm-hmm.
fat while we starved.
Mm-hmm.
This is different now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a whole nother ball game now.
Right. And again, and then two, we'll see how he really is as a competitor, because he has been doing what he's doing. You can't take away the legacy that he's built in the class. I mean, I think he has 11 world titles in classic, which is insane. It's like you can't take that away from him, right? But again, it's always been where there's 4 people in the session or 6, and he does his openers, and he could go home for the day and call it good. But how is he gonna be when we're both back there in the warm-up room, and we're warming up for squats,
Oh,
and
crazy.
and there
I'm
and
gonna feel like, holy shit. When you describe that,
that
would I
but that's
picture
what I
you
think
two in the
about,
same room?
dude. But that's what I think about, like when I think about, because I mean, I Fedoshenko, he doesn't live in my head rent free, right? But he is a motivation of mine. If I want to beat him, I have to lift with the intention that I'm gonna beat him, right? So there's sessions where I put myself in that room with him, and I'm warming up next to him, and I'm thinking about, like, what am I feeling in that moment? What is that gonna feel like? What is that gonna look like? And like Penna, he finds a reason to get mad. He'll look over at another 66. I don't like the way his hair is, and he's just going with it, you know? And I haven't found myself in that position where I look at another athlete and getting, pissed off for greatness, but I can see him bringing that out of me, because I know that I have to bring the very best. I have to. I believe that I'm capable of doing it, Ryan, but I know I have to bring the best version of myself on that day if I want to be successful at beating him. And I'm not oblivious to that. I understand that. I accept it. I accept the challenge, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait, Ryan, to be able to show what I'm capable of when I'm going head to head with him. And I just hope that he shows up to the party the same way I will, because I will be there. I will be there.
You've been in pressure cooker situations where you can't miss at the world championships. You put that on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it feels like. And because the Sheffield mark was 95% of the world record, you were forced to elevate and reach and grab that. And the
Mm-hmm.
same thing's going to happen when you go head to head with it. You guys are going to push each other to crazy limits. And it's the exact same thing, only because that other person's there. It's like, well, this is it. And when you describe, like, when you guys are in the same warm up room for all this hype and this build up, and he knows and you know what you said, what he said, it's all
Mm-hmm.
sporting, it's never personal, but he knows you
Mm-hmm.
want it. You want to give him that L, be the first to give him that L. And you know he's telling himself, not yet, not yet. And
Mm-hmm.
how great it would be for him to come back and get a win in the new one. He knows when you guys are in the warm-up room, there's gonna be a couple exchanges of glances where
Mm-hmm.
your eyes are gonna meet and like, holy, this is about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
All this time, it's all come down to this. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing of sports when the hype builds, the conflict, and then it's time for the resolution.
Yeah.
It gets no sweeter than that, doesn't it?
Yeah. This no That's why I love this sport and I love individual sports. I don't like team sports because you have to rely on other people to do their job. I let me take matters into my own hand. That's why I love this sport. I'm doing the talking. I'm gonna do what I do at Sheffield. But when it comes down to go head to head with him, you know, is let the best men win, and I will shake his hand after the fact, win or lose. If I'm the better man, I hope he shows me that respect as well. But that's what it is. That's all we can do. We will do all this talking. We will post our lists, but at the end of the day, there will only be one winner and and a whole lot of losers. That's that's the there's no other. There's I don't.
There
It's
can
not
only be
second,
one.
third. There's one winner and the rest are losers. That's the simple part about this sport is you win or you lose. That's it.
You pull this off and you do everything you say you're going to do. And so far you have.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be the easily, I mean, you'll be the most celebrated 59 because you'll have done all this. You'll be the first to go to Sheffield, the first to be included even in a showdown that people watch and care.
Yeah,
The first to beat Fedoshenko. The first. And then now we're talking how long do you want to go and how long do you want to stretch this dynasty of the
mm-hmm.
59 kilo class? I'm going to ask you about all that, about
Yeah,
weight class, future, etc. I want to hang in the pocket for 1 second here about Sheffield though.
yeah, yeah.
So what are your plans for Sheffield then?
I want to lift with no restraints because every meet that I've done outside of my very first meet, when I got the introduction to powerlifting, it was like, okay, let's do this first meet, see if I even like the sport. I like lifting, but do I like competing in powerlifting? I'm a very competitive individual, but do I like powerlifting as a sport? So I did that meet, boom. Ever since then, it's been, do what you got to do to win, do what you got to do to be first. And Sheffield is that opportunity not only to lift on the biggest stage of powerlifting, but to lift with no restraints. And that's what I'm excited for. Like there's no that 490 squat, we hit that last time. That's the safe call. Like I don't want any safe calls. If I have to do nationals in April again, so be it. I'm already signed up. My name is on the roster. If I have to do it again to earn my way to Worlds, I will be there. I'll make weight. I'll lift, and I will do what I got to do to make it to Worlds. But I want to know like what I'm capable of when I don't have any handcuffs of we just have to take we have to take the low end because that second didn't look too good. It doesn't matter that you miss groove in the bottom. Like I'm excited to be able to lift and push myself to the potential that I believe I'm capable of. Because every time I leave a competition and I did the numbers that I've done, I always know it's like, dang, I had another 5 kilos here, 2.5 there, 2.5 there. But like I haven't been able to find out like what is truly in the tank. And that's what I look forward to doing. And that's why I think this will be a very special performance on my behalf. And people will hopefully see that 669 is not that scary of a number. It's really not. And I have a pathway of getting there. I these next 9 weeks will allow us to see if we take a shot at it at Sheffield, or do we? Yeah, because I mean the path is very clear. The path to that total for me is very clear. Um, but the question will be, it's gonna, and I love this storyline, right? Because it will always come down to the third deadlift, and that will be the decision that we'll get to make when we get closer to competition. Because like right now where I'm at, I only have a certain amount of big pulls in me. Like we're not like Anna, for example, when he'll skip his second because he understands that he only has a handful of 800 pulls in them. I
Right.
also understand that, right? So the decision that will be made, and when I talk to Steve and Matt Gary, because he'll be handling me, I'm very excited for that. Is do we go for the world record deadlift or do we go world record total? Because I can't go for both. I won't be able to go for both, and I'll have to make that decision. If you know if because I know if I'm 9 for 9 on squat, 9 for 9 on bench, and I hit the numbers that I believe I'll be capable of on the day, that's really what it's going to come down to. Like, what decision do I want to make?
So first off, I know exactly what you mean when you say like this will be the first time in a long time I'm not like somewhat restrained because in the facet we all knew you had to go for the Sheffield qualifier. So and it was very clear on squats, for instance, it'd be like
Mm-hmm,
no, like you're gonna hit the number we've talked about because that sets you up for the bench. You hit the number and that's the subtotal, and that's
mm-hmm,
for the last couple meets, which is the last right up to last worlds, last nationals, worlds before
mm-hmm,
that, everything was all right up to 637 and a half, right? Everything
mm-hmm,
was. So I know what you mean where you're like, hey, all right, fine. I had to make sure I went 6 for 6. I had to. But
mm-hmm,
this time, I don't, there is no have to. Fedo's not there. I'm not
mm-hmm,
qualifying for something. I'm just
mm-hmm.
balling out. If I
Exactly.
extend and overextend, all right, I guess I go for the deadlift world record and not the total world record.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, all good.
Exactly.
But let's just
Exactly.
see. Whereas you didn't have that if you did that at Worlds. I mean, you're not going to Sheffield if you miss. You couldn't have that attitude. So I
Mm-hmm,
totally know what you mean. Where you're like, hey, for the first time in like 2 years, I'm not chasing a concrete subtotal that I need where this isn't a discussion. That's crazy to even talk like that. Now it's like, hey, look, whatever. Let's extend the squat. I missed the squat. That means the total record's off the books, but I got the deadlift record. All right, cool. Pivot.
mm-hmm,
We're gonna have a show. We're gonna have a
mm-hmm.
show. Let's get dirty. Like Penna when he misses a couple, comes back, grinds out a big ending, and everyone goes nuts. We're all good. But
Exactly.
this is the first time in a long time you actually have the ability to just let your hair down and be like, let's rock and roll, man. Let's get the hands dirty.
Exactly.
Let's do this. Which is
Yeah.
like I agree. It's watching you chase the Sheffield qualifying total was cool, and it was is that part. But having a new chapter, I do like also that storyline where it's like now you get to see me a little unhinged.
Mm-hmm,
Now you get to see me when we can go out. We do the one thing is um at the very end when you get to the deadlift, that'll
mm-hmm,
be interesting how you approach. Like where your subtotals at. I mean, dude, the fact that we're even talking about Fedo's world records is exciting as hell. The fact
mm-hmm,
we're even talking like tune in, we're gonna have to find out. But if you think that this is off the table, you're crazy. The fact we're
mm-hmm.
talking like that
Oh yeah.
is extremely exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is can't miss if we have a 59 who's like, yes, it's on the table. Yes,
Yep.
it's on the table.
It is on the table, and I just the path to getting there. I think this recent SBD that I did a 625 kilo for triples on bench and squat, and for 5 on deadlift. All of them except squat. I mean, I think deadlift, I would have said it was probably an RP 8, bench 8.5 to 9, squat was 9.5 to 10. So that's probably not a way for me to grind out a fourth rep with that 496. But 625, I've never done that for the amount of reps that I did.
It's
So I mean,
crazy.
yeah, the math is there. The math is there. And again, when you look at the path of like, okay, well, how much does he add on squat? How much does he add on bench? And then how much does he add on deadlift? Because it's being paint, putting it all together and creating that roadmap. It's like, okay, well, we only want to add this amount on squat because we don't want to go all out, or else we're going to be smoked by the time deadlift comes. And then same thing with bench. So it's going to be a path of doing just enough to where it's going to come down to that third pull, and it'll be the deadlift or it'll be the total. And I already know my answer because yeah, I already know my answer. So I just hope
Yeah.
my coaches agree with me, and we lay it all out there.
Put it this way. I mean, Matt Gary, when it's the world championships, he doesn't like doing like for instance, when Enna skips his second, comes out on his third. which makes sense because he's going all in on his third. And he
Hmm.
also knows, like, I mean, he had to pull 900 pounds last 904, which is crazy. He broke the ground with it too. But you're not doing that a couple times a day. You got
Hmm.
one bullet.
One.
Matt's not a huge fan of doing that at Worlds, but I think if you're a guy like Enna, you got to. However, Matt also knows what Sheffield is. It's not a head to head. You're
Hmm.
not risking your world title. You're the world champ in and out. You come in the world champ, you leave the world champ. There's nothing at stake
Hmm.
there. Matt knows what time it is with that. So
Yep.
it'll be a little different. He's going to
Hmm.
let you play a little bit. To an extent, this is exhibition. Let's go all out. This is what you do at Sheffield, where
Right.
magical things start happening. If there's ever a time, it's now. If
Hmm.
Fedo was there, okay,
Exactly.
maybe let's pay attention to what he's doing and win the battle. But he's not,
Hmm.
and it's just yourself, and it's a you may lifters never have this opportunity where it's just you. Let's see what you got. You know how many other people are at Sheffield and they have someone else there where like they have to worry about a head to head and like
Hmm.
look at the 83s. Russ is like, God, man, I got these guys all over me. Like, this is not he can't even humor this situation. You
Exactly.
finally are in a situation where it's like, no, 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 no. This is one of the only times I'm going to be able to do this. If you
Exactly.
don't do it then, you're not going to be able to at Worlds when Fedo's there, unless you guys push each other
Hmm.
to that
Right.
number organically. At
Hmm.
World Games, I don't know. Depends who shows up. I'm going to talk about the other World Games and the other 59s in a second, and what we could glean from this, and people possibly changing weight classes and whatnot. But yeah, I think Sheffield. That's what's going to be. We'll see. And dude, you got me excited as shit to see US Sheffield now that you just said that.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
first off, SPD is going to be like, say you're going for the total like they're like
Yeah.
I can already picture my story like I did for Kasim saying I was going
Yeah.
800 anyways.
Yeah.
Good, come down. I was thinking about 800 anyways. That's it. Yeah, I'm excited for Sheffield. And now that we're getting close to Sheffield, still got
Hmm.
time. Still got
Hmm.
all of December and pretty much all of January, but it's somewhat sort of kind of around the corner. How are you feeling at this point? Are you going to work through Christmas and how
Oh yeah.
is in terms of like body weight? Are you like training heavy, not too heavy? Like, give us the update on all this.
No, the training has been going phenomenal. I knock on wood, I have been able to avoid injuries. We finally figured out my IT band issue and rehab that right after World. So we're finally showing what the squat potential is. So I'm very happy for that. Bench is going extremely well as well, and deadlift just follows suit. As long as I'm healthy, on the lower body, squat and deadlift just perform well, and bench is just amazing as well. And body weight, we've been training heavier. What is the let me convert it real quick. So 100, the heaviest I got this off season was 143, which is 64.8 kilos.
That's
But
not too
now
crazy.
no, 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 no. It's not too crazy. So then now but then we pulled back and we've been now, let me see, 140, 120, now we're hovering around 63 and a half, but our cut has started to get down to 136, or that's like 62-ish kilos, because that's where kind of we cut from. We learned that we can safely cut from 136. I mean, I've done worse cuts before. Do I want to do those? No. But we know from 136 to 130 is we can do that all day. So that's basically we just gotta go like 4.5 pounds now to get down to, you know, to manipulating weight range. So everything's firing on all cylinders. Usually around now is when we start to gauge like what's going to be possible, because while the biggest thing with me when I drop down sub 140 is I lose like that pop on all my lifts just because I feel flat, and because I start going on a caloric deficit, I have to do some cardio, etc. So that's really the adjustment that I have to get used to. But I've done it again so many times that it's not something completely new. The weight's
Hmm.
feeling heavier on your hands or on your back. It's not a new feeling to me. So my mindset doesn't I don't lose it when it's like, oh man, I lift off 374 and it no longer feels extremely light on my back. It's like, okay, it feels like 374. But it's like everything it's going the way we want it to go. And things are just I'm just grateful to have had this prep go the way it has and just be healthy because the last thing you want is to go into a meet like this and be injured and not be able to push yourself to the limits that you believe because of something that's out of your control and you can't do it. So I'm very, very grateful to be healthy and being able to push. All three lifts are just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, good man. And you know, as you watch all the athletes prepping for this, everybody's pushing themselves because of Sheffield. And you
Mm-hmm.
you you sit with bated breath, like you want to go all out, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to tip a little too get a little too ambitious. And you've been good with it. You talk about how, look at, I don't force the issue on things. Ashton Rouska just had a small injury. It looked like a tear on his arm.
Yeah,
Came back a couple weeks later. I thought it looked bad. And he said,
it did.
I'm hopping off Instagram for a while. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's not good. He's back already pulling, squatting, benching. Like, oh shit, okay. The guy's
Yeah.
freaking Superman, by the way. But it is one
Mm-hmm.
of those deals because it's Sheffield. You can't help but want to push it. Everyone
Right.
has these huge goals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you gotta be ambitious, but also stay in the pocket at the same time. And when you get into that caloric deficit to make weight,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you gotta be a little bit cautious. Because like you said, when you're a little bit bigger, everything feels easier. When you're a
Right.
little bit smaller, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this is not your first rodeo.
Nope.
Everything is happening. Everything for you is happening on a great timeline from the showdown with Fedo. Now you're going to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even if he's, whatever, I mean, if you're targeting his world record, it doesn't matter. It doesn't what he brings to the table.
Nope.
And from Sheffield to everything. If you were at Sheffield before and you couldn't be talking about going after that world record, now you can.
Mm-hmm.
And you've made this cut time and time again. You know where you
Yeah.
need to cut from. You've had like the missteps. I got too heavy. I've got whatever. You're
Mm-hmm.
right. Everything's happening exactly as it should, which
And
is,
that's
it'll be
the
interesting.
it, and I mean that was the plan from the get go. You know, go get out of Worlds, win, hit the total to go to Sheffield and just rehab the IT band, get healthy, so we can have string together a good amount of blocks. Because that's really what it came down to is being able to string together block after block after block, take the momentum from the previous one, go into the next one with that same excitement of looking at the end goal of that block and boom, 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 compounding that. And that's what it's been. And I'm very, very happy that has been the case. So that now, again, when I know that when I step on that platform, I've left no stone unturned, and I get to perform to the best of my abilities on that day. And God willing, I'll be able to perform the best performance possible and shock the world.
Dude, it'd be amazing. I would love it. I'll die, man. I can't. I love that I'm involved in these events, but if you start hitting numbers and I'm like, oh my God, he's getting closer. Oh my God, he's getting closer. By the time deadlifts roll around, everyone's breaking out their calculators. And when you see the bar loaded, like, oh my God, he's going for it. It'll be
Yep.
crazy. It'll be
Dude,
crazy.
and I'm a visionary when it comes to the sport. I like to envision myself doing something before it's already done. And the path that I believe when it comes to, again, when it comes to making that decision, whether it's the world record deadlift or the world record total, I've already envisioned myself choosing. And I've envisioned myself walking up to the bar, hearing the crowd, envisioning what my friends and families will feel if I'm successful at lifting that off the ground. And there's no other option. There's no other story that I see right now. And I think about it. I think about what that squat is going to feel like on my back. That bench is going to feel like on my hands. I'm very much a visionary when it comes to lifting, and I've I replay it in my head. I replay it in my head over and over and over. Even when I'm in training, right? I'm grateful to be in a position where I can lift in the same equipment that I'll be lifting at Sheffield on all the illegal stuff and all that good stuff. I'm very grateful for that. But again, it allows me to put myself in that position It's the same equipment that I'm going to be lifting on. I'll do stuff like before I walk up to the bar, I picture myself coming off of that tunnel. So I'm approaching the bench or the rack from the left hand side when you're looking at the rack. All those details, I just picture myself. I put myself in that position because I just see myself getting it done. I just see myself getting it done. And then eventually it'll come down to where we, that third deadlift, and the story will write itself. And I cannot wait, man.
You come out and it's either Malta or Lithuania. Here we go.
Exactly.
You've
Exactly.
tasted both. You've tasted both. Um,
Mhm.
it's I remember Steffi Cohen. This is back in the day when she's competing, and she came on the podcast and she was talking about how she was seeing a sports psychologist and she was going into like a major showdown with Marion and Gasper Ryan. Now, both these ladies, neither one are in powerlifting anymore, but this was a huge showdown around 2019 range. They were rivals. And she said she bombed out actually in one of her competitions and really messed her up. Saw a sports psychologist, and the sports psychologist was telling her, different than your situation at Sheffield, because it's against another human.
Mhm.
But the psychologist said, if you do too much only visualizing hitting and never even conceiving missing, that in the showdown, if the miss happens and you've told yourself for 2 months it won't, and
Mhm.
you've pictured it, that might have got, because she ended up bombing out one of these competitions. The sports psychologist said, you weren't prepared for that. It was an
Mhm.
audible, and because another person was there, they could apply the pressure was applied, and
Yeah.
it felt different. This is different than Sheffield because the other person, this will be more like when you face Fedo,
Mhm.
and things get messy, and sometimes you win going 7 for 9, and sometimes whatever. And the sports psychologist said sometimes, um, in terms of visioning things, you have to picture still winning, but winning ugly, winning dirty,
Mhm.
winning just winning. It
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
messy. You miss
Yes.
one, you come back, you fucking hit anyways. Or you've even seen at worlds where, like when Chance Mitchell won, he missed a squat, went up anyways because he knew he had to,
Mhm.
and it didn't rattle. It didn't rattle. He was like, it's okay, we'll miss, and you come back and you go up anyways and you hit, and he ends up winning the world title. But sometimes they would do some sports psychologists will be like, don't own, sometimes you got to picture yourself falling, getting up, and keep going because that is inevitably going to happen at some point.
Mhm.
Um, but it's sports psychology is it's crazy. So you
100.
don't want to only like set yourself up like it has to be perfect. You've only been perfect though, like at the world championships anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess for me too, it's like because I do the work to get to the platform. You're always gonna have those nerves of like, all right, here we go, world championships. You know what's on the line, so you're nervous for that. For that, that's it's natural. But at the end of the day, I think the nerves. Most people will get nervous if they cut corners. Did you do all your back downs? Did you do your accessories? Did you really push yourself in the gym the way you were supposed to? And you do the work. And I go into every competition knowing that I did what I had to do to show up on that day and do the best that I'm capable of on that day. So it's easy for me to show up, do what I got to do, but at the same time, I do agree it can be very difficult to only picture yourself succeeding, and when if something does go south, how are you going to react to it? But I've thought about it, and I'm okay with the other outcome because it just wasn't meant to happen on that day. I can only control what I do in the gym. That's the only thing I can control. And on the day of competition, as long as I'm the athlete that I know I'm capable of and expected to be, if you overshoot on, if you tell your handler, I got X number loaded on the bar, and if you believe that you have it based on the work that you put in and it's not there on that day, I'm okay with that because at least I believed. And that's what's most important to me. It's like you're nobody can take what I do or what I want to do away because it's a self-belief that I've created because of what I do in the gym. And that's why I love this in the individual sport. It's like you do the work and the result will be a byproduct of the work you put in. If you cut corners in the gym, don't point fingers and say the refs were strict on judging. That's why the meet didn't go as planned. Oh, this, oh, that. Accept the outcome because it's a byproduct of the work you put in the gym. So while I'm very much a visionary of the success, I've also thought of the other side, and I'm okay with the other side as long as I don't go in knowing that I cut corners, right? If I go in knowing that I gave this prep my all, I didn't cut corners, I didn't skip the cardio sessions, and I had a terrible cut because I didn't lose the weight that I was supposed to. I didn't do the back downs. I didn't do the accessories that I was supposed to. No, that's not the case for me. I go into it knowing that I did my top sets, I did my back downs to the RP, I did my accessories. So when I step on that platform, it's the way I look at it, I have no other option but to succeed. And if I don't, it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm okay with that. And that's why I think that's why I'm very outspoken about it, because it's like I don't cut corners in the gym. If you're in here working out with me, you'll realize that as well. It's like I'm here to work. I have a job to do, because if I'm not gonna be in here giving it 100% or 100% of what I got that day, I'll be home with my son and my wife. It's very cut and dry for me. If I'm not
Mm.
gonna give it my all in here to perform the best to the best of my abilities on the day that it matters, I'll pack it up and go home. Because if I'm not gonna be my best self and then turn around and let the people down that believe in me, just pack it up and go home.
I want to show a clip and ask you about this because
Mm-hmm.
I thought you showed emotion in this interview as SPD, and I think you're
Yeah.
kind of speaking a little bit to it. But before I do, I understand what you're saying. Where some athletes have said, GSP says you're comp. They're like, how can you walk down to the cage and fight? And he's like, I'm petrified, but my confidence to be able to make that walk is because I know I did everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
I've done everything I could in training, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
only reason, the only way I could face what I'm about to face is because I know that. At the
And
very
and
least, that I've no corners
yeah,
planned.
let me say one last thing here before I show the video. But I couldn't agree with that anymore. And for the longest time, Ryan, going into Malta, I was so nervous. I was so nervous. And it was all because of the pressure of, like, going in and winning my first world title and being successful at it. And the night before the meet, the sense I was nervous and went to sleep, and then I woke up and I was the calmest I have ever been going into any competition. And I always ask myself, like, why did I feel like that
Mm.
that day out of all days? Why did I feel like? And I could never, I couldn't, I didn't know. And I believe that just simply because deep down I knew that the work I had put in was gonna get the job done. And it was the calmest competition I've had. Even compared to my second world championships, you would think it would get easier. It doesn't. But even then, it was the calmest I have ever been stepping on the platform. And I truly wholeheartedly believe it's because I knew that I had done everything in my power. So when I stepped on that platform, it was going to be the best version of myself on that day.
Sports psychology wise, I remember one fighter saying right before the night before, very similar story. He woke up, he was crazy nervous, but he asked himself, did I do everything I could in training? You don't remember all the days you showed up, you remember all the days you didn't. You remember
Oh
all the days
yes.
you cut the corners. You're like, those are the ones you remember. And he did a mental dialogue and check, and he's like, I did everything I could. And at that moment, when he realized, no, everything, every day, even when I banged up, nutrition, everything was on point. He said he closed his eyes and pictured himself falling backwards into a pool with his arms extended and just splash. The water went and he just almost just succumbed to the moment and embraced and said, whatever's going to happen is going to happen now. I did all
Mm-hmm.
I could and I could just free my anxiety of what if this happens? Whatever it's going to be now. I did
Mm-hmm.
everything. Just
Exactly.
be at peace with it. And
Exactly.
if nothing else, you could tell yourself that. And it's a huge, and kind of like you, went back to sleep. And he's like, it's okay,
Hmm.
it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be all right. Yeah, yeah.
It's tough, man. All right. Let me pull up this I'll pull up.
Ah, I know what clip
You
this is too.
did you see this, sir?
Oh yeah, I see it. I see it.
Let's-
Is the volume up on your end?
You don't have volume?
I don't hear it. I see the words, but I don't hear it.
Hold on a sec.
That I had accomplished the
There you go.
first task at hand, which is to become a world champion, since that was the initial goal. But just all the time spent away from family and not succeeding at the goal that I talked to my wife with, my son, my friends and family back home, it crushed me. Going into this year's deadlift, I told myself, just relax. You've been here before. Don't let this come back and bite you again. When I was walking to the bar, it wasn't just a deadlift. It was the past 12 months of all the what if questions that I had to battle through and watch people take that Sheffield stage and wishing that was me up there. When I put the bar to the ground, I looked over at the screen and I seen that it was 3 white lights. I right away knew it was gonna be undeniable, and the emotions just came over me. I wanted to get my wife on the phone. I wanted to call her, and I just wanted to just let her know that it wasn't all for nothing, right? Last year I came home, we celebrated, and it was exciting. I was like, all right, well, we got to get back on and get back to the gym, because this is going to come around before we know it. So we were right back into training, and of course that meant time away from her, time away from my son, due to the long sessions of what it takes to get to this stage. So I just wanted to just let her know that it wasn't all for nothing, and it wasn't, man. It wasn't for nothing.
See,
I was in my room last night.
when you said that last part, man, dog, look, I'm getting fucking emotional.
Dude.
Folks, man, I didn't think I would, but yeah, why well, expand on that and what it means to you.
Oh, dude, it's you, not many can understand, because there's only some of us in this sport that are athletes, that are parent, but then you add your wife or a husband, and you add you're a parent, and there's a different there's a different reason to your why than just I just want to be a world champion, or I just want to be the best. And there's there's a different approach that you take when you have it's a choice that you're making to show up in here and step away from spending time with your loved ones. My son is 3 years old, right? It is a pivotal time in his life that I only get, he only lives once. I only get to be part of it once. And he was 2 last year, and I never like to think, oh, he's 2, he won't remember this. It's like, no, he will remember this, not only because I think he's a bright kid. I think he has a great mind, and he's a special individual. But there's the digital footprint of everything, right? The first time I came on your podcast was going into Malta Worlds, I believe, or after national. So at the time he was like 1. And there is there's that choice that we make as parents, as husbands, as family men, to step away from spending time with them and choosing this hobby, that this thing called powerlifting, that it's not a big sport, right? It's not a huge sport. It's definitely has a lot of eyes on it now. but it's a choice that we're making each and every time we step in here to get under that barbell and not be with them instead. So when I was successful at winning that world title, it's like amazing. Like I became a world champion. Um, but I guess it felt unfinished. I do feel like I let him down. I let my wife down and my son down because, and I know they'll tell me like, no, honey, we're so proud of you. And I believe it when my wife tells me she's proud of me. I don't doubt that she is. And I know my son will watch this back someday and call me crazy for thinking that I would say something like I let you down at 2 years old, but I feel that because I will never get that time back with him. So when I'm actively chasing a goal of mine that's very selfish and I failed at it, is I failed. I failed at the task. That's why ah excuse me.
Well,
uh that's why that whole year of training, it was with that in mind. It's like, don't miss twice. Don't let them down twice, because you let them down once. Don't choose this again and come short, because people don't remember second place, and people don't remember, oh, Wascar in 2023, he was just that. No, nobody, 10 years from now, nobody's going to remember that. But people will remember me when I step on that platform in 2025. They will see me there and they will remember me on that platform. So that the entire year, it was this drive of just don't let them down again. You didn't let them down once, and don't do it again. And don't. That's why I said that. It's like don't let it be for nothing. And I'm glad I was able to hold up my end of the deal. Just let them know, show them, hey, my wife can look at me and my son will be able to look at me and know that when I say something, I mean it, and I will do everything in my power to get it done, and I will get it done. And that's why I said that in there. It's like, so it wasn't for nothing, because I was able to prove or do my wrongs, and or do right by my wrongs, and just get it done. Because God, I don't know how I would have been able to move forward from doing it twice. Because again, it's something that you have to be in the shoes to know what it's like to be a parent and devote so much time to this sport. With the only return is the satisfaction of, oh, I was able to do that. I'm able to step on this platform. It's a very selfish sport when you really think about it. And I so grateful for my wife that she supports me to the level that she does. And she's held, she has her own dreams and aspiration that she wants to do, but she's been right by my side, supporting me through the ups, through the downs. It's just been right there. And there was no way that I was gonna return home from Lithuania, because she didn't make it to that trip. We were traveling again with the 2-year-old. It was like, man, Malta was tough. Do we really want to do it again? So a good friend of mine came with me instead, and I was like, when I come back, honey, we're gonna be planning our trip to the United Kingdom, because I'm not coming back without a different result. I wasn't.
what do you think when your son is 18 and looks back, sees the video we saw, sees you winning world championships, qualifying for Sheffield, breaking down? It's very difficult to watch that and not feel something. Here's the
Yeah.
thing, that why you're popularizing the 59s is because you will allow yourself to be vulnerable while the world's watching. You will
Yeah.
allow yourself to, and you care, so we care. And you make it a big deal, so it's a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Because you said it. Because
Mm-hmm.
you gave us the goal before you went in there, and you were brave enough to say, this is the goal.
Mhm.
and you went for it while the world's watching. And you might miss and break down, you might hit and break down. And we get a taste of it all. We get to see it all. The good, the bad, the
Yeah.
ugly, everything. And when you win and you hit and you break down, it's like, oh my God, you feel for you. You want to be, you feel it too.
Yeah.
First off, that's the beautiful thing. But and that's what's helping you. Huge. But also, what do you think your son at 18, when he's older and he looks back, listens to the podcast,
Mhm.
watches the video, sees the interviews, and you talked about your podcast when you came on and talked about your childhood? I still think about that. You know how many
Yeah.
people messaged me and were like, holy shit,
Yeah.
Wascar's got a crazy back. Right? Never knew. Never.
Mhm.
And I hope, like, at some point you say that and even bigger and bigger as the sport gets bigger. Um, but I don't know my dad's background like that. Your son is going to.
Mhm.
He'll go back, come in, and you have like a 3 hours, it's like an audio book when you gave me that. It was remarkable, Wascar.
Yeah.
It really was. And your
Thank
son's
you.
going to go
Thank
in
you.
some point, sit down and listen to your story and then know
Mhm.
where you came from. Like living on the street with your brother,
Yeah.
sneaking out of Dominican with your mother and ending up in America, literally snuck in and like had to be snuck away from your father, living off the street from a street kid to a world champion, the American dream with
Mhm.
USA across your chest. You are the American dream
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
come into America and become a somebody, to be a
Mhm.
business owner, an entrepreneur, and a world champion with USA across your chest. How are you
Yeah.
not the American dream? You know what I mean? This is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when your son doubles back and hears all this, what do you think he's gonna think?
I hope uh that he whenever whether he listens to these podcasts or watches my videos as a form of inspiration, if he's ever going through some stuff on his own, of his own, I should say. I just hope that the takeaway is just don't ever stop believing in yourself, because um anything, I do believe anything is possible. And that's what I hope the takeaway will be from, if he ever listens to these. Maybe someday I'll send him his way to force him to listen to him. It's like, hey, here's your dad. Show him to your friends at school.
Yeah,
Get some street
it's like
cred.
you don't want to exactly. You don't want to sit down with me for 2 hours and listen to your old man talk, but just pop this in when you're working out. You little shit.
Exactly, right.
Show me some
Um,
respect.
and I just the hope is to, of course, the ideal is to always do right by him. Raise a young man that is proud of his parents, proud of himself. But if he ever needs, motivation with anything, and he's ever finds himself in a tough situation, maybe these can be a way for him to put these on and hear his upbringing from dad, and think back, it's like, man, dad wasn't afraid to put it all out there. He wasn't afraid to lay it all on the line, and die by his own sword. And that's what I hope to instill in him, is like, don't be afraid to shoot for the stars, and it's okay to land on the moon. It's like, just go for it. Don't take no for an answer. And that's one thing that I hope to raise them by. It's like, don't take no for an answer, not even by myself. If you want something, if you want to dream, if you believe that you can achieve something, don't even let mom or dad tell you can't do something. Chase it, get after it. Just put in the work. Be proud of the road that you're creating. Because that's just what it is. Just don't take no for an answer. Chase your dreams. Um, and do everything, do right by people, so that when it's all said and done, and you're looking back on how you got there, you can only be proud. And that's what I hope that the takeaway will be from him, if he ever looks back at all this. Just be proud of how you got to the end, and don't question whether you did right by anybody or something, or whatever. Is do the work, don't take any shortcuts, chase your dreams, don't take no for an answer, find a way, because it is possible. You just have to find a way. There's always going to be a way. Just get it done. Just don't quit. Don't quit.
The fact that he's going to be able to see both triumphs and when you swing and miss, because he's going to
Hmm.
swing and miss in life. That's inevitable.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you could tell him, watch both worlds, watch it all. If you got another 10 years in you, you're going to swing and miss, you'll lose, come back, win. Watch it all, son, because
Hmm.
that's real. And see how I dealt with it and rally back and see what happens.
Hmm.
That is it. It's when you pursue a goal and never lose enthusiasm despite taking a loss. That's when you're tested. When you
Exactly.
take a loss, do you come back to scratch with the same enthusiasm? Or do you come back, but not quite, not
Hmm.
quite as much? It hurt.
Hmm.
Like you were
Exactly.
saying, if I didn't make it in Lithuania, that would have been tough.
Hmm.
You probably would have come back anyways, but it would have been
Exactly. Yeah,
tough.
yeah.
I mean, you
Exactly.
would have, but it would have been tough. That'll test you. That's
Hmm.
when, like, look at Jurens did this for years
Yeah.
before he finally won a world title. That's when you get tested,
Right. And
and
that's
it's
when,
good.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, you go
I was
ahead.
going to say, but that's when champions are made. Champions, I do believe champions are made um, in their losses. What, and some roads will be you're on top of the world and you're winning win after win, win after win. But how you are defined on how the future looks when you are taking losses. And that's what a champion is truly defined by. That's why Jurns' story is so special, is because going into that world championships, the favorite was Russ. When Sheffield put up the whole like percentage thing, it's Russ, right? 90 something I think it was like
Yeah,
97% had Russ
he was
winning,
97.
right? So that's what makes that so special, is because I'm sure he believed in himself. He has a little boy and he has his own, his family that he was fighting for. And guess what? His family is going to look back someday and see his story and watch him go, year after year after year, losing, losing, losing. He medaled and all that stuff. But again, and the way I look at it is, if I'm not first, I'm last, and it's one winner and then a bunch of losers. So for him, he's going to look back, or his family will look back at all this, and his family will be able to see him fail, 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 but he never gave up. He kept pushing forward, and he believed that he could get it done. I actually talked to him uh, when Austin Perkin was competing, because I was able to stay for that session. But then I had to leave that night. We had to drive to the airport, and I was talking to him, and he was calm as day. And
What?
I was like, dude, the guy's about to go into the biggest battle of his career, and he was, sitting in the front row, just like, laughing and joking around with all of us. And in my head, I'm like, either this guy, it's already set on, second, third place, and he's okay with it, or he knows what's about to go down and he knows what he's capable of, and only he knows, him and his coaches know it, what's about to happen the next day. And sure as heck, man, he pulled it off. He pulled it off when everybody else thought that it wasn't possible, or should I say 3% thought that it was possible. This man knew, and he knew he was going to shock the world, and he did.
You said something interesting in there where you mentioned in your losses, you learn so much and you reveal something. Let me say something that Ali said, and also let me bring something from work. I'll tie it all together. It'll all make sense.
Yeah.
So we do testing. We do magnet wire that goes on transformers. And one of the tests we have, we pull this magnet wire when it's heated, extend, 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 and it's got to reach a certain limit without breaking.
Okay.
And if it reaches that limit, it'll pass. But even after we extend and it hasn't broken, we keep extending beyond it already passing, and we keep extending until it fails. Because only when it fails do we know how much it could take.
Mm-hmm.
Muhammad Ali said, when I lost, there's something beautiful when you see a man give everything, because only in a loss do you really see how far and how deep he can dig. Only when you've dug all the way down, then there's nothing left and you lose. Do we really see your reserves and what happens? When
Mm.
you've completely depleted all of your resources, now we know what you have. Now we know what you're made of. When the fatigue comes in, you come out for the last round and you know, I can't win this. I'm too far behind. But you go ahead and you fight anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see your heart. How
Mm-hmm.
do you fight when it's a loss?
Mm-hmm.
Only when you're extended past right up until you break. Now we know how far we can extend you.
Yep.
And when it was Ali, it was right to the end, man.
Dude, and that's the, I mean, Duran's story is absolutely phenomenal. It's amazing. And that's why I think I was able to turn around after Malta and train the way because again, I viewed it as a failure. I viewed it as a failure. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So I failed. Um, and that's what I was able to take back into when every time I get under the bars, lifting with that purpose, that mentality of don't miss twice. You've been here before in the sense of, prepping to do or do something that you said you're gonna do. Just execute. And I think that was the beautiful part about it all is while, it made me into a much better athlete because because of the way I viewed that day, it has taught me to like, man, I don't want to feel like that again. I don't. So I train with that purpose. I train to never feel like that again, you know? And that's why, the losses will always define the champion of what they're made of. Cause I'm not, when Fedo said it, it's like, it's not surprising. He'll beat these people that say that they're going to beat him and crush their dreams and you don't see them again. And then he's saying, if he does beat me, that to not be like those guys. I'm not that guy. I'm gonna keep coming back year after year because I have a goal. I have a goal. I have a dream, and nobody's gonna take that away from me because I take control into my own hands, and I'll be there year after year, and I will be successful. Hopefully not when he's 50. Hopefully it's next year. You know, but in 2025, I do believe that next year will be the year, and I think it's going to be the perfect time because he believes that he's still in the best shape of his life. As he said, he believes that he can, if given the opportunity on the right stage, the right day, he believes he can push the world record. Like I love to hear that because it just lets me know that that fire within him is still burning hot. So the day that we phase off, it's not going to be, oh, Wascar beat Fedoshenko because of XYZ. It's no, Wascar beat him because he was a better man, period.
Mhm.
Like this, I don't want no if, buts, or because, or but. No, no, no. It's Wascar was better and he is
Dog,
better. That's it.
dog, dog, I can't wait. First off, everything you're doing, by the way, inevitably by popularizing the 59s, there's going to be somebody else, several others, walking around, athletes your size, who are looking for their sport. How does a guy my size get into high level sports, clashes, showdowns, just like everybody else?
Mhm.
Just like everybody else. I'm not going to play basketball. I'm not going to play football. I'm not going to play whatever the shit. They will find powerlifting because what you're doing is popularizing it.
Mhm.
You are doing a casting call for other 59s to show up. And you know how people show up in powerlifting out of nowhere all the time.
Right, right.
You know this. Like right now, it's Fedo. But what you and Fedo were about to do, when everybody gets excited for this clash, what you do at Sheffield, what you do in 2025 against Fedo, and then we do at World Games, you're making this guy come faster.
Yes, yes,
You think about
100%.
that?
Yes, yes. And I am grateful to be in that position. It's, privileged to be in the shoes that I'm in, to have the abilities, the gift to lift and be healthy and have the facility to lift that where I live, to train the means to be able to travel and do all these. I'm so grateful for that. And I do understand that this will either it's bringing the sport up. And I know there's maybe one person, if it's one person that listens to this whole thing and to, you know what, I'm going to throw my hat in there, then that's a win, right? But and then I know that when people tune in to Sheffield and they're seeing, well, let's see if he's capable of it, that's a win, right? Because you get people talking, like you said, it's like the build up to the fight, you're creating an expectation, and it's is that individual going to live up to that expectation? You're going to have to tune in and find out. Nobody wanted to really watch the Jake Paul Mike Tyson, but we wanted to see Jake Paul get knocked out. We wanted to, does Mike Tyson really have it? Everybody wanted to see that. That was really why everybody tuned in, right? Is does Mike Tyson show up and knock him out? And that was the expectation that everybody had. So that's the beauty of it. So I look forward to going into Sheffield, performing there, and turning right back around. And whatever happens at Sheffield, the expectation will be the same. Going into the World Championships, Fedoshenko will be there. That's the hopes. And that we go head to head and I beat him. That's going to be the storyline. He's had a 4-year layoff, I believe it'll be. Would that be a 4-year layoff from competing at Worlds since the last time he stepped in
Yeah,
the ring?
he was at because he's at 2021 Worlds. So
Yeah.
Asian will be international. He has an
Mhm.
opportunity to break world records. Who knows if he's in that kind of shape? And then Worlds, 4-year layoff.
Yeah. So 4 years, is he still the same athlete? That's everybody's question. Can he still do it? Can he still perform? It's 4 years later. I mean, in powerlifting terms, 4 years is God forever, right? So how is he going to show up after 4 years? I mean, there's going to be an expectation on him. Not only is he going to have the expectation of going head to head with me, and any other potential 59s that show up, but is he the same individual? Can he show up? And kind of like he said, right? Nobody no longer asks him when he goes to meet what place did he get, because he has an expectation. He has specific shoes to fill that he's created because of the legacy that he's built, and that's amazing for him. But he has to come into this World Championships and fulfill that profit for everybody else back home to him. And can
People are
he
going to
live to
ask
that?
this time.
Exactly. People are
When
going
he
to ask
comes
this
back
time.
I love that I totally forgot he said that.
Yeah.
He said, I'm at a point in my career where people don't even ask how you placed. They assume I won. And for the
Exactly.
first time, people better ask when he comes home. They're going to have
And
to ask.
they're going to have to ask, because it's not going to be the like it's been before. It's simply not. Because the say again, the roadmap to how I want to get to that world record, I have a roadmap to how I can beat him. And it's gonna be a special day. And I cannot wait for it, man. I know we're gonna be watching him compete next week. The biggest question that I have is like, is Russia even gonna be allowed in Germany because of the war still? Because like I'm very excited to see him back on the international stage, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up on everything until he's nominated
Right.
to be at the World Championships. But best believe I'm gonna be training like he's gonna be there.
Dog,
Right?
if he's not, you got to reach, because Asian championships will take people as guest lifters. They'll take
Okay.
Americans as guest lifter. Ray Williams has been either at the Asian championships or Europeans or whatever. Like, you guys will be able to clash at some point. As long as he's back on the international scene, you can
Hmm.
meet him somewhere. This
And
can
that's
happen. Hopefully worlds, but
hopefully worlds.
regardless,
Yes.
you could see this through.
Yes. And that's, I want it to be at worlds. Like in a perfect world, how this story ends is me beating him at the World Championships. And that way I become undeniable. I do believe I'm undeniable right now as the current reigning 59 world champion. I won last year, won this year, defended my title by a margin. So I do believe I'm the current world champion. I do believe that. But there's the athlete part of me that wants to put a stamp on it and beat the guy that hasn't been beaten in the class. And I can't and we'll get into it, like going up a weight class, etc. I can't leave this class without fulfilling that, because I know that if I leave this class without going against them, and again, if it's at the World Championships, amazing. But if we have to meet at Asian Championships, silent worker meet, you know, we will clash. And because
That'd be
I
amazing, by the way.
when
Silent worker would be
oh
amazing
dude,
too.
yeah, when people
I'll
ask
be
like, are you
commentating.
exactly, so it's like before I leave this class, and or if I leave the class, it's like that's one thing I have to check off, like World Championship, Sheffield, World Games, and then beat Fedo. That's the last box to check, and currently it's not checked, so I can't go nowhere.
When you're doing all this, and you're popularizing the 59s and you're doing everything, and the position Fedo's in, where you're like, I got to beat this guy, etc., because he is who he is. On the other side of Sheffield, on the other side of World Games, on the other side of the Fedo clash, when you've done all this, and let's
Mm-hmm.
say by this point you're a three-time three-peat champ, won the
Mm-hmm.
biggest showdown of the weight class, first 59 in Sheffield, the world record. Let's say you've done all that.
Mm-hmm.
You realize you will stimulate some kid's going to show up and look at you like you're the Fedo of hit for him.
Yes.
And for that kid, he'll be like, Wascar's the guy he's the guy. He was the guy that when I was coming up, no one gave a shit. When I did all
Mm-hmm.
these other sports, when I found this sport, no one was giving a shit. And he popularized it. He did what Penna did to the 66s. He's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to beat Wascar if I'm going to do this. I need,
Yes.
like this. You will be him. You will
Mm-hmm.
be the new GOAT. You will be the new great. That's like, I got to beat this guy head up.
Yeah.
You realize like people are watching, and the bigger you get, the more you will be the target. And eventually, if you do what you're saying with Fedo, you'll put Fedo aside, and it'll be you up there that everybody's like, no, it's you beat Wascar, you're a fucking star. You got
Yeah.
the big check mark on. You're gonna be the scalp that they want.
Mm-hmm.
You think about that at all? Like, hey, right now I got Fedo, and it's is it Wascar? Is it Fedo? Is it? And that's perfect. That's what the 59s
Mm-hmm.
need. You want that. But when you
Yeah.
clear him aside, if you clear him aside, with all due respect to Fedo, if you clear him
Mm-hmm.
aside, it's gonna be you, man. Every 59 in the world. And people pop up out of nowhere, and you see with the 83s, Russ was so comfortable. And now look at this. People like are gunning. This is gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
in the 59s. And it's going
Yes.
to be you big time, because they know a win over you is going to put them on the map everywhere, take them to Sheffield, and they'll be like, I'm the one who beat them. You
Yep.
think about stuff like that where you're like, okay,
I do, man, and I'm glad I'm young in this sport, because I feel like I'll be able to fight for the foreseeable future to retain my title, defend my spot. But of course, there's the sport is so young, and even like in my gym here, I have some two of my members that they're football coaches for their school, and they started a powerlifting club because like, man, they seen another high school doing it. They started one here at a school, so the sport is getting introduced to kids a lot earlier, and that's when I think like the talent is going to continue to rise and pop up out of nowhere. Because when you start introducing these kids to a barbell, high school, middle school, etc., oh, I mean, what I would give to have started to getting under a barbell in middle school, oh my gosh, right? So just in general, I mean, people, like, what are they feeding these kids? Like Joe Borenstein for
yeah.
21 years young, and he's doing what he's doing. It's like special talent. And he's one of many individuals that'll pop up that'll get you introduced to a barbell at a younger age and find out, it's like, man, I got this talent. Let's explore it. And you're gonna have all these people coming up. And I'm grateful to be in a position to be that guy, and to look to close the gate on some dreams. Because I mean, I have to be that guy, right? I have to be able to look at another athlete in the eyes and, hey man, I crush your dreams. And
Do you imagine
sorry, not sorry.
you'll end up talking like Fedo when you're like, hey, after I beat you, I hope you don't disappear. You'll be talking just like him, ironically. You sound bites, your sound bites. You, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So that's the name of the game. Right? That's the name of the game. And then eventually, if they have the ability to beat me, then that's the case, and we'll move forward. But until then, I will continue to believe that I'm that guy. I'm currently, I believe I'm that guy to beat Fedo and take that crown away from him. And then we'll see what the future after that will look like.
So let's talk about some weight class jumping for yourself and the first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what you think? Obviously, you got big goals, 59s. You 2025. Obviously, you're going to be 59. You got some goals to do. But in the future, do you
Yeah, yeah.
see yourself staying 59? You see guys like Shell, who people are getting more and more serious about staying in a weight class or dropping into a weight class. And while you're not quite in a position like you're dropping, but you have to cut to make it a pretty
Mm-hmm.
big cut. You're a big 59. Do you
Right, right.
think, you know what? I'm a big 59, but Shell is a massive 66. Look what he's about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Agata at 69, Evie at 52. Like, are you telling yourself, I should stay 59 and keep it moving and see what I could do? See how far I can push it, see who emerges, and more
Mm-hmm.
showdowns happen or whatever? Or are you telling yourself, I think I'm going to go to 66 eventually and just, see how big you could blow up your total? Now Shell's
Yeah.
there and he's threatening 800 kilos and it's crazy, but whatever. Who
Mm-hmm.
knows where the barriers, where the ceiling's going to be as a 66? First part of the question, and then we'll get into, are you eyeing some of these 66s who Shell might start pushing down because he shows up and he's doing 800, and now guys are going to be like, hey, I could probably, and in as popular as you make the 59s, some of these 66s will try to eat off your plate because for a while they're like, now I'll stay 66. It's a hot division. People love the
Mm-hmm.
66s. The more appetizing you make the 59s look, somebody who's a 50, 66 is like, I can't beat Shell, but they're going to look down and be like, I think I could take everything Wascar made in the 59s. I could take that from
Mm-hmm.
him. You know,
Ooh.
have you thought about that as well?
So to answer the first question, I'm still undecided. And the biggest reason why is building myself into that class was going to require time, and um, it comes back to that, like, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and the time that I could be spending, I'll always lift for the rest of my life. I'll always be in the gym. I think that's engraved in myself. I don't think I'll ever go without being in the gym and working out. But to the degree that powerlifting, especially to lift at the level that I would want to lift at, it's tough. It's tough. And I think Delaney said it best when you read the most recent time you had Delaney on. Yeah, I think he said it best that resonated with me. It's like, if I'm not gonna be lifting at the highest level, then this I don't see the fun in it. I don't I enjoy lifting. There's a beautiful part into being in the gym and doing right by yourself. But as an athlete, it is tough to get up without a sense of purpose, um, especially knowing myself and knowing what that process will look like. Because the question will always be like, do I want to be selfish for that much longer? Because I've been selfish now for the past 5 years, going on 5 years now. And that's really the question that I have to ask myself is, do I want to continue to be selfish for that much longer? Because I know it's going to be a journey, and I'm not afraid of the journey. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm not afraid of facing that head on. Is, do I want to be selfish for that much longer when I have whole nother life that it's more fruitful, right? As a husband and a father, it's more rewarding. Um, so that's really what it comes down to. When I get asked that question is, do I want to be selfish for that much? Because I do believe that if I want to go into 66, be competitive at the 66, do I believe I can do it? 100%. How I get there, is about 3 to 4 years of training and putting on lean muscle tissue on my frame, getting up to, I would say, about 155, 157 pounds the right way, and doing that. And that's why I say 3 to 4 years to put that lean muscle tissue on the right way, to then, cut down to 66. That's the way I see myself having the best shot at being successful at that class. But again, there was I can't remember the guy's name, but he said he was having this conversation with this football team. He's a coach, and he was saying how, success is success doesn't care about the hard work you put in. It doesn't care whether the person you're going against does less work than you. Success is not guaranteed. So am I willing to do all that and be selfish for 3 to 4 years to show up at nationals and not win? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice that when I could be with my family, or I can stay at 59, cut like I cut now, and know that I'm going to be lifting at the highest level, have the competitiveness there, and continue doing what I'm doing. Then that's kind of what the options are, when asking that question. So
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. Where it's like 66 would be an unknown. I mean, the numbers look, to Penna's point, where it was funny. I don't know if you heard the Penna podcast where he refused to give Shell his. He's so funny. He refused to acknowledge Shell as a 66. He just refuses.
He said he has to make weight first. We have to see him
make
weight.
He goes, I don't know. You're asking me about a guy. He's not even a 66 as far as I'm concerned. I don't have an opinion. And I was like, it was such a sneaky. He was so good at it. He was like a politician. He's like, well, you want my opinion on something that doesn't exist. I can't. What do you want me to tell you? But if Shell does end up doing like 800 or something crazy, then you're like, frick, now I'm not 66. I gotta bulk to 66, inflate my total as much as possible, the whole nine. Whereas right now, I am the world champion. I have everything in front of me.
Correct.
I have to vacate the throne. I have to abdicate the throne and leave this hole to jump into a whole nother weight class. So it makes total sense. And the sacrifice and everything that goes through it, and you could do it all and be competitive, but not number one. But you're number one right now. That's what you're giving up. If you weren't number one, it'd be easier just to be like, oh, what the hell? Why not?
Yeah.
Right? But you are. So it's like, well, that's a lot to give up even right there. And it makes it worth it, to your point.
Yeah.
Because you're not an also ran. How about that? Do you think the 66s in America, I don't know if you remember last year's Nationals was an incredible battle. Jonathan Garcia won, but Charlie Yang and a lot of these, there are some killers. Daniel Clements, I'm assuming, is going to end up being healthy and over there and doing his damn thing. And he's a phenomenal lifter himself. If he can make a push, I'm very interested in seeing how far he can go and how far he can stretch his total. When you see these 66s and you see these other people dropping down a weight class, do you see some of these 66s looking at you thinking, do you think one of them's going to be like, you know what? This is too much of a Shark Tank. I'm dropping down and I'm going after Wascar.
I haven't looked at any specific individuals in at 66s as a possibility of that to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me with how common it's becoming, especially at the higher levels. You had what's her name? Forgot her name. I'm drawing a blank. The first Sheffield when she dropped down.
Evie,
Evie, and now you have Kel doing it. And when you're seeing these individuals at the highest level taking that leap of faith and betting on themselves, is like you're, indirectly possibly making an impact in somebody else's journey and say, maybe I can do the same, right? But I will say this, I welcome it. I welcome anybody who wants to take on the challenge of, coming down to the class. It's not easy. That's why I believe the class is so small, and the talent pool is not as deep, because it's easier to eat than to, I mean, I'm going on my 4th year of not having Thanksgiving food. And I don't know if people are going to be willing to sacrifice that to powerlift, or they're going to try to and quickly figure out it's not that easy. That's why I look at even other athletes from other federations that lift at 60 kilos, for example. So just 2.2 pounds above the 59. And they're, when they talk about coming over, I'm like, I wish you the best. But that last kilo, there's a reason that that last kilo allows you to perform the way you do.
Mm.
That's because that's when for me to go, whether it's 70 kilos or 64 or 60, whatever, for me to get to 60 point, that's a walk in the park. I can do that, no problem. Ryan, I can get to 60 kilos. And by the time I get to 60, I feel like $1,000,000. If anything, normally like this past World Championships, when I woke up the morning of the meet, I believe I was 60.2 the morning of. And before I had to cut that last kilo or so, I was feeling phenomenal.
Mm.
It's that last, and I do agree to with Penna to an extent, right? Because while Kel right now he's 70 or 69.8, I believe he posted last when he did the SPD that he recently posted, 69.8, phenomenal. His cut I believe is going amazing. How is he going to mentally battle with the last kilo when your stomach is this half the size of your fist, and it truly feels like when you're in, whether you're in the sauna or you're spitting or you're in a hot bath and your body is just telling you to stop? How is he gonna react to that? Not many people know that feeling. I do believe Penna is one of those. He does his cuts. I've done those cuts many times, and you have to be an individual who's willing to go there and ask your body to give you more than what it's trying to give, because that last kilo is where the battle truly is. And that's why you see fighters miss weight by 0.5 pounds. You'll
Mm.
see them miss weight by 0.3. They strip down bare in 0.2, right?
Mhm.
Because that's truly that last pound or 2 pounds. That's when the cut starts.
Mhm.
That's when the battle starts. And that's why you see individuals not make it, because to go they're not willing to cut weight. That's what it comes down. Like when I see somebody miss weight, if the way I see it, if you're within a kilo and a half of making weight and you miss, and you go on social media or whatever and say we tried to do it, it didn't go, you quit. That's what it is, because you're not willing to put your body through what it goes to mentally, and it's all mental. Your body will go through the motion unless you're having a medical emergency, right? I'm not saying go crazy and push your body to past the limits that it's meant to go, but if your body is there, it's all mental, dude. And unless you're choosing or you're willing to go through it or been through it before, it's a tough place to be, and it's a lonely place to be, dude. So we'll see. I'm excited to see him go in there and do what he's going to be doing, but he is going to have to face that first battle, and that is the toughest battle. And we'll see how his recomp will go. And I know he has Kendrick on his side, which I know he's going to do right by him. But we'll see if he's mentally bulletproof enough to put it all together, and of course then turn around and perform. Because that battle number one is it's making the weight, and then battle number two will be performing, and that's where I think people will be coming down from 66. It's especially when I look other like height. You know how there's those graphs out there with like the height versus what weight classes you're supposed to be. Some people will argue that I'm supposed to be a 66. I'm 5'2" and a quarter. Don't forget that quarter out there.
Quarter.
Don't forget that
A quarter.
quarter.
Don't short me no quarters.
Exactly. So, some people will argue that I'm supposed to be a 66 just based on my height. And majority, even majority of 59s that are in my class, they're taller than me. And same thing with 66s, they're taller. They're usually 5'3", 5'4", 5'5". So when I know what I have to go through at 5'2", with the lean muscle tissue, I believe the last DEXA scan that I took was 100. Ended up at 123 pounds of lean muscle mass
Oh my
when I weighed
God.
59. Yeah, right. So are you willing to be not only a taller lifter, but you've been like, Kel, he's been lifting heavier weight. So I'm sure the muscle density, muscle tissue is going to be greater. Are you willing to put yourself through what it takes to make 50? Because it's 15.5 pounds. It's
What
not,
I, what I wonder, first off, what you say that the Penna says the same thing where he's like, let me be a kilo heavier and see what I put up in the gym. Do you see what I put up in the gym when I'm a kilo heavier? It's a difference. Take a kilo off of
mm-hmm.
me when you talk about why is your total drop 20 kilos or whatever, because I had to lose that kilo. Like
Yep.
let me be a kilo and a half up. See what I do when people are
Oh,
just a kilo heavier. It's like, no, it's not the same. You'll find out
yeah.
you might make weight, but your total's coming down and you'll have one of
Mm-hmm.
these posts to your point.
Right.
But when I look at the 66s, I see a guy like Jonathan Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
He's a shorter guy. And I
Mm-hmm.
wonder, he would actually be like Shell down to 59. I wonder if
Correct.
someone, and he could lean, he's jacked, but he
Mm-hmm.
could, that's a guy who I wonder if someone got a hold of him and said, hey, Jonathan, and he's around Shell's age.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, do you want to be a world champ? You
Mm-hmm.
want to make one more run? How about this for a little side project for you?
Mm-hmm.
Drop
Yep.
head to head with Wascar. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see what, and that would be bonkers.
Oh, dude.
You
I
would
would.
be, I'd have you on the podcast and you'd be like, I don't know. What do you ask me? I don't, he's not even 59. You're asking me my opinion? He's not,
who, who, who is he? Who is he? I don't know who the guy
who is
is.
he? Who is he? Let him make weight first. Don't ask me questions that are silly. I don't got time to imagine. I don't got time for imagine. I got a son. I play those games with my son. I'm not playing these games with you, six. What are we talking about here? I don't want to use my imagination. He's not at 59 yet. But
Yeah.
but you never know. A guy like that, he's shorter.
Mm-hmm.
He could do a shell.
Yeah.
And it would be amazing for you again because it'd be the talk of the town. Like, oh my God, talk about another after Fedo, you need something else. Everybody knows who Jonathan Garcia is. Someone
Mm-hmm.
like that who's around that height, because he shorter than you? I think he's even shorter than you.
Dude, he's shorter than me. Yes, it was
2 inches.
actually when I met him, no more than that.
3, 4.
Or hold on,
He
hold on.
could be a 59 dog.
If you're tuning in and watching this on YouTube or Spotify, watch this. I'm gonna show you a picture real quick. It shocked me, especially when I stood next to him and we took this picture. I was shocked at the height difference, and I've always specifically Jonathan Garcia. I have always wondered, has he ever competed at 59, or if he ever
I'm
will
pulling it up.
compete at 59?
I'm gonna pull
Because
it up right now.
he is an individual who can, if just know that knowing that I can do it, I know that he can. So look at this.
Oh, dog. Yeah, you are inches taller.
Yeah.
Yeah, dog. I keep an eye on that freaking guy, okay? Because
Oh
he's
yeah.
coming
But
down. Oh, he was 60 kilos before.
oh, there you go. Yeah.
2015, he was in the 60 kilo class.
Yeah.
Watch that guy. Watch that guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna be
Hey, I
slipping
will.
into Kendrick's. He's gonna be slipping into Kendrick's DMs and be like, "Hey, guess what, Playboy?
Hey, I know he recently switched coaches to try, a new approach to things. So I know that he's an individual that has a drive and he wants to be number one. I mean, I talked to him. Me and him hung out a lot in Lithuania. Much respect to him. He's a father as well, just like me. So me and him shared a lot of similarities. And he has that mindset. So if somebody like him was to drop down, I'd take it very serious. I'd welcome it. I would wish him nothing but the best and show up on the day to the best of his abilities. But again, it'll always come down. Making this class is not easy, especially if you're a 66 that's walking around at 150. I've done those cuts. They're not easy. And are you willing to sacrifice those once in a lifetime opportunities with your family? Yeah, you get multiple Thanksgiving because the next year comes around, but are you going to be willing to say, hey, Ace, I mean, I'm looking this year, right? Hey, to my boy, we're going to be spending time with our family on his third year when he was alive. Daddy didn't have Thanksgiving. I was sitting in a corner covering my nose because the food smells good. And people are wondering why I'm on my phone because I'm trying to distract myself from the fact that all this food is around me. It's like, are you willing to do that? And I don't think many people are. Or so far, it hasn't shown. I think Kel can say a lot, attest to it. Like he's had to make a lot of sacrifices. I bet. I know he loves pizza. He's had to stop, because he knows what it's gonna take to get there, and he's doing the work. He's going at nighttime, walking with a weight vest on, maybe when his family's already sleeping. And it's like, who's gonna be willing to do it? If you want to take on the challenge, I welcome it. We will face it head on. I mean, why do all that to come in second? I don't know.
Exactly. That's exactly what you can be like. No, you're gonna miss a lot of food to come in second, man. You're gonna miss
Man,
Christmas. You're gonna miss that. Come on, it ain't worth it.
it ain't worth it, man. Just keep enjoying up there. Keep
That's
living
right.
a happy life. Cause why go through it all? Why go through it all to come in second? I don't know.
Live a happy life, dude. It's gonna be bad interesting. We got to pay attention to the 59, 66s, all because of this now. It really has opened my eyes. Now I look at things like that now. When I see people competing, and I wonder if they ask themselves these same questions and start thinking to themselves, what if I do this? What if I do that?
Hmm.
We'll see. Only time will tell. I mean, you can
Yeah,
only deal with the obstacles you got in front of you. And right now you got plenty to work with. And then
exactly.
we'll see. We'll keep our eyeballs on the freaking US Nationals nominations though, huh?
No, I sure. I mean, I'm nominated there. Well, Sheffield will be a fun meet. I'm excited for it. And if I have to do nationals, we'll do nationals, and of course have some fun with that and crush some dreams there. And we'll just keep living the dream we're living right now.
Also, one before we let you go and everything, Joe, we don't we
Yeah, yeah.
just hop in this and talk 2.5 hours real quick, huh?
Jeez.
We just crush through. I love having you on the podcast though. But how was the gym been going?
Dude, it's amazing. It's amazing. We are over a year now, year and 2 months. It's been very, very exciting, and the community's been amazing. They welcomed us with open arms when we, open our doors. The members are amazing. It's been a journey, just like my career in powerlifting. It's been a journey. It's had its ups, the downs. Um, I mean, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
Oh,
I think
really?
when you
I was gonna say because people say it's so much work, but it depends if you got a team with you and
Correct,
that.
correct. I will say that I have a great team around me. But even the times that the effort that it took to open it, and now that it's where it's at, I think if you create a community that cares about the facility, and that you have the right people around you, I mean, it's not. I can only speak for myself, and what I can say is I don't think it's as bad as people paint it out to be. It's not all this work, and if you open a gym or if you have aspirations of opening a gym, you have to, you know put all the dreams to rest. It's like absolutely not the case. You can do many things, like I said, you find a way, right? I'm a firm believer in that, and we found a way. Now we're open up. I mean, I'm here on a Sunday, the members are here working out, I'm here having a great conversation with you, and I get to go home after this, sleep very, very soundly in my bed, knowing that it's not as bad as people make it out to be, truly.
When you're at work at the gym, when you're
Mm-hmm.
lifting, one hand feeds the other in that like is when you're training, it's going to improve your performance and that makes your gym bigger and tracks more people. When you sit down and do
Mm-hmm.
podcasts,
Yeah,
of course, it's all advertising for your gym and makes it bigger. People who are local will be like a world champion powerlifter trains at that gym.
yeah,
Sheffield,
yeah,
everybody who's into powerlifting watches Sheffield. You can go to that gym and watch somebody train for Sheffield at that gym.
yeah,
You listen
yeah,
to the podcast. He's on that podcast. I remember walking past him when he was on that freaking podcast.
yeah.
When I did a podcast with Russ, when he
Mhm.
had his gym open. We were right there and people walking by and we were podcasting and like, holy shit,
Dude.
I just saw a six-pack Lapadat King sitting there with Russell or he doing a live podcast when we
Uh-huh.
just walked by them. It matters. Like it
Uh-huh.
actually helps your establishment. So when you're doing these things, it's not like having another day job. You're like, shit, I'm doing a podcast while I'm at work. Like, no, no,
Hmm.
no. This is good.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah.
training and you're at work and you're like, I'm gonna do like lift weights for 3 hours. Good. And being in your gym lifting is
Hmm.
why people would come in and like love that atmosphere. Having a world, it's it means something to go to the gym and have a world champion smashing weights beside you. You
Yeah.
will want to level up. You will be
Yes.
like, I got to get after. Look at Wascar
Yeah.
gets after it, man. And when you
Yeah.
want to chase your dreams and you see a guy who's a world champ, of course it's
Hmm.
got to be cool as hell. People, if you're looking for a powerlifting gym and they don't have guys like that, and you are you and you're at that gym, it's going to be a plus. And you
Yeah.
train there when everyone else is training. If you
Exactly.
train in the peak hours, put on a show. Let them
Yep.
see the intense. I see your videos. I see how
Yeah.
intense you are when you're in there. Like
Yeah.
it's going to get people fired up.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so grateful to have the members that I have, and I'm grateful to have my own facility to train at, because that's what it was all about, is creating a space where you can come, and whether myself a world champion or you're just discovering what a barbell is, you can come in and feel what that feels like, and I've seen it firsthand, because I love welcoming people. Like if I'm squatting on a rack, on a rack, and somebody's waiting to squat, hey, just come in and work with me. I love doing that, because not only it's gonna push them to be good, but it pushes myself too. Like, man, this kid is moving weight quick today. I better step it up.
Mm.
I'm not gonna get out
You ain't
weight
styling
and
on me in my house.
no, no, not today.
Not
So
today, kid.
it's that like, it creates a work ethic, and people are able to see it firsthand, that you put in the work, and eventually the fruits of your labor will show, because there is no shortcuts to this game. There is absolutely no shortcuts, because if you do take shortcuts, we'll see it on the meet recap. We all know how it starts. We all know how it starts.
Didn't have the day I wanted. That's what it is. What it is.
uh,
Well, Frank, man, I'm glad everything's going good because yeah, you hear
Thank you.
how difficult gyms can be, and a lot of it is just having the right people around you.
Hmm.
And if you got a solid team, you can face almost anything. That's like for life, right? You got
Yeah,
a solid team, nothing's as scary. If you look to your left and your right, and like we'll be all right, we'll get through it. And you're
exactly.
resilient. You've been around the block. You're a good read of character and whatnot. You got a work ethic on you as well, which is going to take you a long ways. And dude, freaking, I'm excited to see what you do at Sheffield. I'm gonna stay tuned, watching the lifts and everything, and we'll talk at Sheffield. I'm not entirely sure the entire schedule itinerary. I know I'm gonna be
Hmm.
working. I'm not sure exactly what SPD is gonna all have me doing, but I would love to do some like podcast or something when we're there. But it depends on how busy everybody is. And
Yeah.
I don't even know how busy I'm going to be. Like sometimes it's pretty wild and crazy. I know the media is intense. However, before we got this far in powerlifting, we all were dying to be like real professional athletes. And real
Mhm.
professional athletes, ask them how many interviews they do and how much media do the week of like
Dude.
or the week of like fight week when they're a boxer
Uh-huh.
or MF or whatever. This means it's real. This means
Exactly.
it's all part of it. It's just all part. It's
Exactly.
difficult when you're cutting weight and everything, but it's all part of it.
Yeah.
Um, but dude, I'm excited. I can't wait to see you there in Sheffield. See what you do. We'll ball out afterwards. Go to the freaking banquet and have a
Hey,
blast and do a damn thing, man.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I look forward to, going once again, running it back in person. It'll be a great time. I'm excited, nervous, all of the above, of course. And I think it's going to be a day to remember, as always. I mean, that meet is just something special. It's a special, special meet. So,
We're gonna have some life memories after that one, man. We're gonna
yes,
have,
we will.
we're gonna have some life memories, and I guarantee you, we're gonna talk in the DMs after the Asian Championships. We'll be in touch.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
be
Oh,
chatting.
yeah.
All right, man. Until next time, thank you for hopping on. This was super late notice. I'm like, let me like I just had the Fedo Asians is around the corner. I'm like, let me bring Wascar on. And Easy peasy lemon squeezy. My man did not disappoint. Jumped on, crushed 2.5 hours with no warning. It is what it is, right? That's how we do business, man. That's how we do
Thank you.
business.
Thank you for always a pleasure, Ryan.
You bet. And for everybody listening, as per usual, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, 6-pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are out.